Jacob. Ready to go? All right. It's 10:22, and I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Marine Environmental Resources Task Force for the Advisory Board for the Town of Fort Myers Beach on Wednesday, February 14th, 2024. Happy Valentine's Day. So call to order, and if you can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. And back there.
Way in the corner.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have no mics. Does that make a difference?
We have no what?
We have no mics.
I think this one's.
It's just that one. We'll all talk to that. Okay.
Okay, if we can have roll call, starting with you, Phil.
Bill Altoff.
Rose Larkin, present.
Robert Howell, present.
Jennifer Rusk, present.
Dave Nussbaum, present.
Mary Rose Spalletta, present.
Steve Johnson here.
Chad Schutz, staff liaison.
Okay, and approve the agenda. I had one question that was kind of a surprise, I think, to not only me but everybody, but there's a presentation that was scheduled. Can you give us some details on what that is? How
Yes,
long
sir.
will it
Just
take?
going to talk about town sea turtle and lighting standards policy.
Okay, and what's the projected time for that? You say?
Just depends on how involved we get.
Okay.
I can do it in 10 minutes. I'm sure y'all can do it in 2 hours.
All right, we can stretch it. Any other questions on the agenda?
Yes, I believe that at the last meeting, we had spoke and requested that the Fort Myers Beach activity book be put on the agenda, however it wasn't. So I would like it to be put back on. It's not a member item. It's something that needs to be discussed, and so I request that.
Yeah, there's been a change really to the way it's structured. Members' items typically are member feedback, right? I mean, you guys would
Right.
agree? Right.
So
That's
agenda
typically not
items are something
discussion.
that's a discussion and that we can go through it, make some corrections if need be. I'm very excited for the community and the Beach Elementary School,
do you
and we have 5 pages that need to be discussed.
What would you propose? Move the,
I would propose and I would move that we put that on as an agenda item.
And we're gonna need that for a couple meetings, Jen, that's why.
Correct, it's gonna be for the next couple months.
I'll make a proposal here. We'll put the agenda back to the way we're all accustomed to seeing it. So we'll reorder the items as current items, and then under members' items, we'll go back to sharing whatever we have with the group. Does that sound reasonable?
Yes,
Yes.
I second that move.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No? And is there a motion to reorder the activities?
So moved.
No, is there,
We want the order to be,
as we discussed at the last meeting, so that would be.
we're still gonna cover everything that way, correct?
Right, well, yeah, the adopt the right of way and the sewer lines, I think, were the ones that were added if there's time allowed, so. I'll go ahead and make a motion that we start with, as we had agreed at the last meeting, with beach sand projects. We'll do the activity book, we'll do shrimp parade, then adopt the right of way, and then the sewer lines.
I have a question on that,
Yep.
Chairman Johnson.
Yep.
Does that mean the presentation on the sea turtle conservation is not being discussed, or is it
No,
being
that
discussed
stays.
in order?
That stays, as it stands, I mean, unless anybody has any recommendations. We'll start with that.
Sure,
Technically.
let's keep it short.
Does that answer your
Okay.
question, Dave?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you.
So there's a motion
So I'll
to
second your
reorder?
motion then.
Okay, any objection? Hearing none, that motion carries, so let's get started with approving the previous meeting minutes. We didn't receive any, I don't
Yeah,
believe?
we did.
We did.
We
Oh,
did.
did you?
Yeah, we
Okay.
did. They looked good to me.
Yeah.
I didn't see any need for corrections. Did anyone else?
No, I make a motion, we approve the previous minutes as published.
I second.
Okay, any objections? Okay, motion carries unanimously. Public comment? No speakers, just viewers, huh? Okay, well,
I'm,
come on up.
yeah,
right
we
now.
have I'm very informal,
We don't get a lot of visitors.
Yeah.
Come on.
Just
Come-
state your name first.
I'm Kelly Carden. I have the property at 8258 Estero Boulevard. I've had it for 25 years down there. That's where the sand is being placed right now to refurbish the beach. I guess while I'm here, I just found out about this last minute, but I hear there's opposition to the sand that's already being placed and has already been approved by the state of Florida and the governor for refurbishing the beach. I guess I oppose the comments that were made that this is hurting shoreline nesting, because we have been working with FWC. You can talk to Rebecca Snyder. For years, we've had a relationship with her where we're for the birds. We allow the birds to take over our property. We get rid of the white pristine beaches down there. We let them habitate, nest, and then when it's done, they work with us and they till that back up so we get our beach property back. So I feel like we're being painted as against shoreline nesting. We're pro shoreline nesting down there. And in regards to the snowy plovers, I think they like the dry sand better than the wet sand. So by not putting that sand back to what it was before Hurricane Ian, we're actually hurting the snowy plovers who don't want the wet sand, and we're just trying to fill in that area, that low spot with dry sand, hence increasing even more snowy plovers and shoreline nesting to take place. So I'm opposed. Again, people saying we're not for the birds. We are for the birds, and we've worked well for years. Like I said, I've had the property for 25 years with FWC to increase the bird habitat. So we're not against it. Everybody down on the south side signs the same thing every year for the birds. The other thing is, I think it's easy for people who are not golf front to tell property owners on golf front what they should be doing with their property, just like it would be easier for me to look at people's other property and say, I think you should do this with your property. I think you should paint this with your property. I think you need to have it this high, this low. I could come up with a million things that I think other people should do with their property, and I feel like we're kind of being targeted as beachfront, golf front owners. People are telling us what we cannot do to our property, and the sand has already been approved by the state of Florida. So I'm trying to figure out why we're helping the birds, so that kind of takes that argument away. It's our property, and it's been approved and gone over with fine-tooth comb by the state of Florida and the governor to refurbish it. We're not increasing beach, we're just refurbishing to what it was before. So I feel like we're kind of being targeted there. So I just want to make sure, I guess I was heard, that we are for the shoreline birds. We have been working for years with FWC for the shoreline birds. And I would like that relationship to continue. So I guess I just wanted to, as a property owner down there who's being affected by it, I just want to make sure you hear from us, because it is affecting my property value. And so I guess if we don't get the sand and it turns into a big island and water down there, for the people who are making the decision to have that happen, and my property value goes down because of that now, how am I being made right and made whole for not letting the sand go in that's been approved? Because I'm the one getting affected. So the people who are making the decision are not getting affected, what happens to my property, but I am the one getting affected. So if we all of a sudden debunk it and say, no, we don't want to do what the state of Florida has already granted us to do, who's making me whole when my property value does go down? So I guess nothing fancy, that's just want to make sure I was,
Okay.
heard my opinion as
Thank you,
a
Kelly.
property owner. Okay,
That's
thank
great.
you.
Yeah, I feel the same way.
Well,
except
can you
for the fact-
can you
And
Oh,
name.
I'm sorry.
identify yourself? Yeah.
Brian Seashon, and I live at 8262 Estero Boulevard on the beach. I have a problem with the fact that when I bought the property, the beach was pristine, beautiful. And that's, when I sat and I looked out over the beach, that's what told me, buy this.
So
And I
where-
did. I moved from Cape Coral to the beachfront.
Mhm.
I wasn't there 3 months, and people started coming onto the property, my property, staking it off, limiting my ability to get to the water. I'd have to go all the way around to get to the water. So I have a problem with the birds, first off. And I also have a problem with the fact that people are making decisions about my property that don't live on the beach. I have a problem with that. I have an investment that I need to protect. And I don't see it going up, I see it going down. As a result of the birds, as a result of the hurricane. It's pitiful what that beach looks like right now. For the amount of time that passed from last September to now, and finally something's being done, and you wanna stop it, I don't agree. I don't agree at all. So, that's my opinion. I'm a property owner, I have an investment, I wanna protect that investment.
Perfect, thank you for coming, Brian, sharing it with us.
Okay.
Yep, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Is there anything else?
No,
Okay.
that's fine.
I thought you were done.
I think I made, I
There's a
think I made
pregnant
my
pause
point.
there, yeah, okay. Yep.
We're kinda new to this process this year, so,
Ma'am, could you, if you're gonna
oh,
speak, I
Yeah.
need you
okay.
to
Well,
say
Carla
your name.
Sisha, 8262 Sierra Boulevard.
Stan.
Okay.
Stan.
Yeah, sure.
I'm opposed as well, but we're kinda new to rules, regulations, and things like that. We need to be educated, before we feel like we need to go to a higher level. That's basically what it is. So.
And that higher level is,
Yep.
Our attorneys, our property attorneys.
Okay.
right.
Hi, I'm Joe Nowak, and I own the property at 8273 Estero, which is right across from where this sand replenishment's being done. We bought that property 19 years ago. We built a home on it 18 years ago. None of this was there then. There was no birds. There was nothing ever being fenced off. We had a beautiful, gorgeous, white sandy beach. Now I look out my windows, and what do I see? 6, 7 months out of the year and more now of just weeds, those prickly things. You can't even walk on the beach, and you look out there and you don't even feel like you're living on the beach anymore because it's a total mess, and it's like that most of the year. And then you have the fences all over, you have the birds flying, they're dive bombing, they're hitting people. What I wanna know is who approved this originally to let this happen on our beach? Why didn't they go over to Lover's Key? That would be a safer place, because every year we get tropical storms and it floods. Those babies all get killed. I walked over there and seen them laying all over dead. It makes no sense. So why do they drag the beach to make it like Rose, to attract these birds. I've seen this every year, and it doesn't make sense to me. So we, like they're saying, as property owners, we can't even enjoy our property anymore because we're not even looking at a beautiful beach that we can enjoy. And what's this doing to our values? You think someone's gonna wanna buy a house and look at this mess every day? No, they're not. They wanna enjoy beachfront property and beautiful white sand. So, we need some answers about this. Who put this there and gave this the name of this critical wildlife or whatever they're calling it, without any of us being even involved?
The answer is the state of Florida. I mean, just quick answer there, it's the state of Florida. Yeah, so thank you for coming and sharing with us, Joan.
Larry and Linda Wenstrup, we're at 8259 Estero, directly across where the sand is coming in to be refurbished. I think we're talking two different things here, and that is bringing our beach back, refurbishing our beach, which we all want. But again, when we moved in 2011, that beach was pristine, just pristine. And how this bird situation started, it started small, and we're bird people.
Well, I think also they were telling me that colony of birds came from Lover's Key and nested there. So they're not even a natural beach for birds.
They were
And then-
attracted here.
And then last
I'm
year.
sorry, your name?
Larry Wenstrup, same, 8259. And then last year, I walked out and they're spraying herbicides all over the beach because what happens when these birds are hatched, they're picking up the sandburrs and it's killing all the young chicks. So they're spraying herbicides. I went out there and talked to them. I said, what are you doing? I don't mean pack sprayer. I mean, they got carts running out I still have pictures from last year. And I said, where do you think these herbicides are gonna go? Oh, they'll just dissipate in the sand. I said, but, you know, you're 30 feet from the ocean, you know? It's just ridiculous, the whole thing.
Well, and back to the birds, it started out as a small patch, and it has grown all over that pristine beach. We have an access, all right, and we pay taxes for that access. We cannot walk, we have to walk completely around, one way or the other. The south end is already, you know, well, down towards the bridge is already closed off, and it was last year also. But it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. I love birds, I don't mind the birds, but you can't take over the whole beach. And once we set that precedent, there goes your property values. And it's not just the people on the beach, it's Laguna Shores.
Laguna Shores, they have access on two different sides, and it's just a mess. In this meeting, really, we didn't get publicized enough to have the rest of the Laguna Shores here. I heard about it this morning, a few other people did.
Last night.
We need to know when this is gonna happen, because we could have 500 people back here.
It's every month at the same time. It's noticed. I don't think there's anything special about this particular.
You
Well,
can
I
go
think-
onto fmbgov
Yeah,
and sign
okay,
up
that's fine.
for the,
Yeah, we need to do
But,
that.
okay, we
But I
have-
think
Yeah,
Joanne
yeah.
had a thought, how did it get started? I mean, why did it get, who authorized these colony of birds to come over and stay? And then why are you accommodating them? I mean, is it a natural thing or is it natural? I mean, it seems to me like it's an unnatural area for the birds to nest. I mean, if you have to make it an access for them, I mean, that's ridiculous.
So, sir, we can't respond during public comment, but maybe we'll discuss
Yeah, maybe you can
it.
send me some.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it just doesn't, I mean, and like I said, I love birds, there's an eagle up on one side. And then the other people are talking about the birds. The birds of prey people were getting criticized by the plovers because they were coming in and taking the chicks, you know, so I'm thinking one bird's against the other bird. I mean, it's called nature. Let nature take care of it. So, that's all I have to say.
Linda,
Thank
Larry,
you.
thank you for coming.
Okay.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
Sir?
Yeah,
Hello.
come on up.
Edward McCabe, Carlos Point, 8350 Estero Boulevard. Give you a background history. I grew up here on this island in the 70s. Served 28, came back to come home. I know, you know, what the island looked like when people talk about the history of the island. It was beautiful, pristine. So now to fast forward to today, yeah, from what I understand, we've worked hand in hand in unison with Becky Schneider at Carlos Point and all that. The majority of our land is reciprocity, you know, but belonging to, for lack of better words, to Carlos Point. I guess the curse is because we made such a pristine beach to maybe answer some of the questions, that was sort of, it became an invitation to the birds to come in because they saw the beautiful beach. So the birds, this is what I understood from both the state, from conversation with them as I'm out there, you know, doing my work and all that, my volunteer work, is that we kind of inadvertently we invited the birds in. But now let's parlay it to today. I am completely for the sand replenishment, watching all the work done after the hurricane, preserving the sand that had been washed up on Estero Boulevard and sifting that, cleaning that, keeping it on the island. I applauded that. That was a beautiful work of art right there to keep our sand on our island and all that stuff. It's very valuable. Sometimes I joke that it's more valuable than gold because it really is. I am all for bringing the sand in and replenishing our beach. We need it cleaned up. The area, the entire island has been cleaned up. We need, you know, our due process of getting our beach point cleaned up also, much like the other side towards Times Square and onward to the south. So we have worked hand in hand with Becky Schneider, had invited her and the staff of the state, Chad and everybody, come on, you know, on our property and have meetings. Because as we knew, you know, again, through conversation, my direct conversation is not third hand, direct conversation with the state rep that was there helping us and me conversing with her, is that we have the largest piece of property in front of Carlos Point in the entire state of Florida where the birds migrate 3,000 plus miles to come to our beach. We have to have this delicate balance, and I know we're all for, you know, the wildlife, that is part of the beauty of the island, is enjoying it. You know, my wife and I we're avid boaters, fishermen, that's why I wear the hat, because we do want clean waters. We want an environment that we can enjoy. We want an environment that is beautiful and pristine and clean. What that brings in are the animals. They like it too. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ed.
Jim Dutton, 112 Sanddollar, Laguna Shores. As a Laguna Shores resident, we have deep access to the beach. Right now, unless it's low tide, I cannot access the beach because it's water. And this sand restoration will put the beach back to where it was when I purchased my property in 2020. So I'm for the sand reclamation of the beach.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, any more comment? Seeing none, I'll.
Chairman Johnson, just real quickly, and just a point of order. I was sent this morning an email from an owner on the beach, and I did not bring it up, and I'm not sure it's my place to read it in public comment, so I'm asking you, if someone sends me documentation that they would like read in public comment, is it legal for someone on the committee to read it, or do I just hold it and submit it?
Sure, I would say typically under members' reports.
No,
No?
I don't think so, because we can get into a situation where people want to say something that really shouldn't be said and have someone else take the blame for it. If someone wants to say something, I think they should be here, but that's my
I
thought.
agree with both. I think reading it, if it's a public comment that someone sent to you, and it's on record that it's not you saying it, you can read it, because then if we do it under members' reports, that's where we can say, because that would be ours.
But he needs to give them credit. We'll say
Right,
who it is.
that's what I'm saying. So I would,
Yeah, you'd identify.
Right,
is
that's
it
what I'm
ti-
saying.
Is it
So I
timely,
think
is it about
that-
the
Oh,
subject?
Is it
it's
about
very,
this?
very timely.
Then I'd say.
Yeah, I think now's
Okay.
the
Go
time.
ahead and read it, yeah.
Thank you very much for the
Impeach me,
indulgence.
that's fine.
This was from
Advisory
Sharon
board.
Hagstrom,
Oh,
and it
sure.
was sent to me, dear members of the MERTF Committee.
Mhm.
My name is Sharon Hagstrom. I'm a resident of the state of Florida, and I live at 8300 Estero Boulevard on Fort Myers Beach. My first home here was at Point South, 500 Estero, and also owned at Smuggler's Cove. I've been working with Florida Fish and Wildlife and the Department of Interior of U.S. Fish and Wildlife for 20 years as the Castle Beach liaison, guiding our interests in the environment, specifically nesting birds. I'm currently the president of the Castle Beach Condominium Association for the past 7 years. In my duty in that capacity, I am in constant contact with Rebecca Schneider, Regional Director of Florida Fish and Wildlife, and most recently with Major Evan Kazkowski, Regional Commander of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Tropical Storm Gabriel brought us this beach in September of 2001, and we have chosen to host this birding project ever since, even though it's been a big sacrifice for us. Every year we allow 6 months of our beach to be used because we believe we are good stewards to the environment and realize the importance of doing it. Each year we meet and discuss the strategy for the upcoming bird season, because in many instances the regulations are ever changing, so we must adjust as well. That strategy involves the mapping of our property and deciding where the nesting areas will be roped off, with pathways down the middle or through the roped off area to the Gulf of Mexico for owners and renters. It also gives the approximate time of the start of nesting and approximate time of nesting. Once that's agreed upon, then they begin roping off these areas. I've had the pleasure of working with Chad Chutz as environmental project manager over these past few years. He's always available for any questions I have, and will call me back if he's not available. I've called on him many times in advance. We're fortunate to have him working for Fort Myers Beach. He works tirelessly on environmental projects. The reason I'm writing this letter is because we are now receiving sand for a berm project that will protect our property against water coming in from seasonal activity and tropical storms. It has come to my attention that the MERTF Committee is opposed to sand being placed on our beach that will not only help prevent the intrusion of water to our building, but will also enhance the sandy area of the nesting birds. Each season, I place packets of information about the nesting birds in each unit of our building for owners and renters to better understand this project. I post the information in the elevator as well. We have worked with the Audubon members over these many years, and they have a tent out on our beach to educate walkers regarding the birding as well as the turtle nesting project. The collaboration between property owners and FWC has proven successful in that each year the number and variety of nesting birds has steadily increased. I encourage MERTF to trust this long-standing collaboration as it pertains to this carefully planned timing of the sandburn. This project will protect property owners while avoiding disruption of the bird nesting season. In closing, I would hope that the MERTF committee would not object to the sand placement on our beach. I want you to know that your committee 4 years ago awarded Bill Suckenberg and myself the MERTF Award for our contributions to the nesting birds as stewards of the environment. Let's hope for another successful birding and turtle season coming up. My best, Sharon Hagstrom, President, Castle Beach. Thank you.
Absolutely, yep. Sharon did win the Murphy, along with Bill. Good. Any other?
Steve, I'd like to reassure these people that we are not in opposition to the sand being placed on the south end of the island. As a matter of fact, one of my reports is going to be all of the work that I've done in the last 4 or 6 weeks about that, because the answer is not to just place sand down there. We have to secure that sand or it will be lost. And as far as sending the birds to Lover's Key, we need to realize we're a barrier island. If we go back 200 or 150 years, the birds nested on the entire island. They've been pushed off the north end because it's all business. We on the south end enjoy the quiet and the wildlife. A pristine beach is not a flat beach with nothing growing on it. You will lose that beach. It'll be eroded, it'll be washed away. We need to encourage sand placement, but we need to secure that sand. We need to secure it.
Chairman Johnson, point of order, please. This is not a discussion.
Yep.
We're still in public comment.
Right, we haven't closed
I'm
public
sorry,
comment.
but I just had to respond. I don't want people to feel that we are so negative. We are not.
Okay. So, any other,
Yeah, I'm gonna speak again.
Public
You only-
comment is
you-
closed, I believe.
You only get
That's
one
what
you
option.
get, yeah.
There's
You get one.
literally, that's the rules.
yeah.
Trust me.
All right, so, let's move along here. So, group, is it worth having addressing the public comment? Or do we just continue through our agenda?
I think we ought to be clear that we're not opposed to what the state and what the feds and what the town has agreed to bring the beach back
I
to
think having a
pre-storm levels.
controlled
We're not
discussion
against that.
would be a good idea.
Thank you, that's
Yeah, I'm
true.
not sure where these people got that
I
idea.
know.
If you go back and look at our meeting minutes and
So,
read through them,
well,
there's never
there
been
I mean, we'll talk,
a discussion.
Yeah.
we can talk, the SAM projects is actually on the agenda, I think,
Right, so-
we can discuss at that point, but you know, some of the comments, I guess maybe I can add some points of clarity to is, specifically, the agreement down there is between the owners that have signed, or have an agreement, with the FWC and the town, which would be our environmental liaison, Chad Schutz, is the representative of the town, who is part of that agreement. And so what is agreed upon those three parties is what's actually happening down there. Like the herbicide, I mean, that was from the owner, that's essentially an owner request. So the property owners have actually requested for the herbicide in conjunction with the FWC and the town. The reason they came here is because there is an ordinance that does not allow herbicide in the EC zone. And although we don't agree with it, it was voted here that we would allow them to do it only in the staked off areas for the benefit of the nesting birds. And again, we just make recommendations to town council. We have no decision-making capacity whatsoever in this advisory board. That's all we can do, is advise the board, and they can ignore us, or the town council, or they can accept our consideration.
Well, with all due respect, we can listen to people that come here and,
Well, we're members of
discuss,
the
and
community.
then-
I mean, that's the point.
Right, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying that we have a public comment for people to come and actually speak, you know, give us, their input, and then have a discussion, and then give our advisement to town council. But again, I agree, we don't have, authority to make any decisions, we're just the public.
Yeah,
There
and
are-
the birds, and the birds don't follow. I mean, we can't ask them. We didn't attract them from Lover's Cay. I mean, they go where they go. If we put ropes up, I don't think that birds know that, okay, this is set aside for us. I think what's made that south end attractive, and this is my opinion, but from biological standpoints, is from the raking. I mean, by raking the beach, it makes it more attractive for beach nesting birds. So, if you don't want, I mean, the conclusion would be if you don't want birds, then you don't rake the beach. I mean, again, that's just potentially why they're all nesting there. I mean, it's a very favorable area. They're critically endangered, and that's where they're choosing to go. And I think the FWC's responsibility is to protect those, and that's why the laws are in place. The laws aren't the laws of MERTF. They're not the laws really of the town per se. It's the FWC that is responsible for enforcement of those. And also, this is a little bit more of a pet peeve than anything, but the word pristine has been used. The definition of pristine is untouched by human hands. So, I mean, again, it's just like I said, it's a pet peeve. So a description would be that it's been, whatever, managed for the view. It's not pristine. Pristine, the definition is untouched by human hands, and I know I'll take crap for that, but I had to say it. So, is there any other contributions anybody here wants to make just about the array of different thoughts that we heard this morning?
Are we closing public comment and moving
Yes,
on?
it was. Yeah, it was closed, and that was a post-discussion just to address the people
Okay.
that took their time to come here and address us. So,
I just want to say something to the extent that there is a lot of misinformation out there, whether it's certain media outlets or whether it's people doing research online without citing sources and things like that. And it comes to a point where we need to know that we all want the best for each other. And I really think that's what we're trying to get at. We're all trying to make this island great for everyone. The Marine Resource Task Force, we have a nice array of different minds here who have a lot of, I guess, background with education or the environment in mind. And we do like having now new members that have those other backgrounds of having big properties down on the south end and things like that. And I feel like because certain things are coming out in certain media outlets and puff pieces to get us vilified, when the reality of the situation is we're really trying to find an in-between for what's going to work with everybody, in my opinion. And I really hope that we can start using different outlets of media, not just one or two, to try to come to some conclusions and to some ways that we can find ways that are working for everyone, whether it's, doing certain things with the sand that we haven't thought of yet, or, we want those ideas. I don't like how divided we are on issues where we really all want the same thing, we're just going about it differently. And I think that being tunnel visioned on certain information coming in is really affecting people. And that's us, that's everyone, that's my 2 cents on it.
Well, as long as everyone's giving an opinion, member Eltoff and I had a very long discussion with Rebecca Schneider at FWC regarding shorebird nesting on various areas on the island, what can and can't be done as far as property owners to enhance and mitigate some of the issues that go along with that. And quite candidly, there are pending regulations that FWC has put in place, and we have to work with FWC to try and find the sweet spot on the driver. If any of you have ever played golf, we're trying to find that balance between
And to make sure that everybody gets not only their say at this point, but also helps try to shape what happens in the future. And I think that was a critical part of that conversation.
All set?
Yeah.
All right, next item is the sea turtle conservation presentation.
Back on the agenda.
Your favorite place to be.
All right, guys, so town lighting review policy, I wanted to bring this in front of the MERF and then also bring it in front of council tomorrow at the MNP, just to get some feedback. We are, right now, 900 structures down, a couple thousand severely damaged. There's a lot of people that are redoing their structures and, of course, redoing their lighting. So, looking for some feedback. I'm gonna run through some ordinance, and then the good stuff is at the end where I'm looking for feedback. So lighting standards, purpose, we want a nighttime environment, minimize light pollution, glare. If you don't want light, in your windows, you should have the right to not have light shining in your windows from a neighbor. Applicability for the lighting standards code is all new luminaires, regardless of whether a development order is required, must comply with the provisions and standards of this division. So, we also have the Sea Turtle Conservation Code that speaks to lighting, as well as some other things for sea turtle conservation. We're just going to talk about lighting today in the code. So, protecting, its purpose is to protect the nesting and hatchling sea turtles on the beaches. Applicability, again, all properties within the town that may produce artificial light directly, indirectly, or cumulatively, visible from any portions of the beach, regardless of whether those properties are beachfront properties. All buildings and related infrastructure, landscaping, activities, etc. So, when is a lighting review required? And this is all copy and paste from the code, so I'm happy to send links if anybody wants to review the code itself, but that's why I'm flying through it. When is lighting review required? So prior to issuance of a development order or building permit for new structures, new construction, and improvements to existing structures. And this is for all structures waterward of the 1991 CCCL, so that's single-family residences, commercial, multifamily residences, as well as multifamily residence and commercial structures landward of the CCCL. So, in effect, all multifamily and commercial structures on the entire island will get a lighting review.
Can I ask a question?
You can, but I'd rather fly through it if that's okay, and then we can do questions at the end.
Okay.
Thank you. So, when is a lighting review required? We did that. So what is a lighting review reviewing? So, lighting standards. We review illuminance, which is a fancy word for brightness. So we use photometric data. That's only required for commercial and multifamily, 3+ multifamily structures only. They have to meet minimum and maximum luminescence standards for different areas such as their parking lot and walkways. These are things that are measured in lumens, foot candles, watts, etc. It also regulates lamp standards, so the bulbs, the LEDs, for the type and color. So they must be in harmony with the adjacent community, consistent with the task and setting, and should not create a mix of colors. So light standards. This is for, luminaire standards, light fixtures. So what is that bulb screwing into? So they must be fully shielded, full cutoff, recessed bulbs, and flat lenses are the only permitted fixtures for outdoor lighting. And there's a half dozen or so exceptions for that. But the key thing is we want fully shielded, full cutoff fixtures. And then also mounting standards, which is a fancy way of saying light poles. So placement on the interior of the site is preferred. It kind of does this thing where it says it must be on the interior, and then it gives a way to exception, so of being on the perimeter. So it's kind of more preferred interpretation. So 15-foot mounting height maximum, except if the poles themselves are within 50 feet of residentially zoned property, and then it goes down to 12 feet. There's an exception for existing poles later in the code. For building mounted lights, they have to be attached to the walls and cannot be like on top of the building or on top of the roof. It has to be below the roof line. Canopy lighting, it must be fully shielded, full cutoff. And again, there's more details in the code to review if you like. So we also have light standards. So when when there's a question of what's not addressed, they're leaning on the Illuminating Engineering Society of North America. I haven't read a whole lot of that, to be honest. And they're also refer to the standards for artificial lighting near sea turtle nesting habitat, also known as the beach. And that is addressed in the Sea Turtle Conservation Code. So what does the Sea Turtle Conservation Code address? All artificial lighting affixed to the exterior of new permanent structures, construction or additions to structures shall be long wavelength, which is also known as narrow spectrum, long wavelength, amber, orange, red bulbs. Not all yellow bulbs or orange bulbs are necessarily long wavelength. They must be downward directed, full cutoff, fully shielded. There's exceptions for this on the landward side of buildings that they only need to be long wavelength. They don't necessarily need to be shielded. Mounted as close to the ground as possible, and you always have to comply with the Florida Building Code, the Department of Health for pools, to achieve that minimum illumination for egress points, public pools, etc. So why do we need lighting reviews? Human health and safety, and help the sea turtles recover in their population numbers. What happens if we don't do review lighting? These are some of the disorientations that we had after the hurricane. And these issues were even prior to the hurricane, where we have lights that are across Estero Boulevard, or we have a glow that's kind of base side of the island, or we have a pool light that looks like it just got installed by a contractor and is reflecting off of a building facade and projecting light. Or again, a pool light that was installed with no review, and that was a beachside pool. So all of these were after the hurricane. Again, this is why we look at lighting, so that we try and minimize the disorientations that we're causing of the sea turtles. So what about existing lights? Hey, I don't need to review these lights, have always been here since the beginning of time. So, we come into that quite a bit now after the hurricane. We've always had these lights. Why are you asking about it? I do request those lights to be included in the lighting plan submittal. However, lights are not always in the scope of the project to be reviewable. So, we're just replacing the bulbs. Why is that a permitted process? Or we're just replacing the fixtures that were there before. So what does the code say? Existing light fixtures must be brought into compliance with this code by January 1st, 2010. Any fixtures replaced after the date of the adoption of this code must be replaced with fixtures that comply with standards established in the code. Illuminance levels specified in this code shall apply to all outdoor lighting. From the Sea Turtle Code, existing artificial lighting affixed to exterior structures shall not be directly, indirectly, cumulatively visible from any portion of the beach. So, existing lights are still addressed by the code. It's preferable for it to be in the review process, so we can get things right before we spend money. But if it is existing and non-compliance, the code does speak to it. So what is our policy? So pretty obvious, I think everybody agree, if you have lights that are directly visible from the beach, long wavelength, downward directed, shielded from the beach, that's pretty straightforward and practice right now. So that also right now includes, and it has always included structures that are not beachfront. If we have a light that's directly visible, But that's even more pertinent now after Hurricane Ian. Across the state of Florida where Hurricane Ian touched, it removed a lot of vegetation, and on Fort Myers Beach especially, destroyed a lot of structures that previously shielded light. So we have a lot of properties that are now essentially beachfront. And also, there's, whenever you're doing a view corridor, I'll have people draw like a diagram, like, it's not visible if you do a straight line out to the beach. Well, whenever you're walking down the beach, you will see, you have to always look forward and back and see where lights are coming, because different lights come into view from different angles. So, and then also, interestingly, this is a bayside structure that the city of Bonita sent me, asking me to address lights that were on the front of a condo that most likely were not in compliance with the exception of an unshielded light, that being it needed to be like lower than 20 watts for it to be an unshielded light. Therefore, it was creating a bright light from Lover's Key that was a disorientation concern. So that's directly from the beach. What do we do for indirectly visible from the beach? Still needs to be long wavelength. So if it's reflecting off of a building facade, even though it's directly shielded, if it's reflecting off a building facade, sea turtles are not as sensitive to long wavelength light sources. Therefore, if it's long wavelength, it won't be as much of an issue as opposed to a full spectrum white light. So if you're not required to be shielded if that light is not directly, indirectly, or cumulatively visible from the beach. And you still have to comply with lighting standards code with regards to luminescence issues and full cutoff concerns. So the question I have for today, the difficult one is what cumulatively visible. So is it how do we get to this where we're looking at doing lighting reviews on the bay side for a condo or a commercial entity, and they're like, well, you can't see this from the beach, and well, it's cumulatively visible. What does that mean? So the definition, cumulatively visible, means light source from numerous artificial light sources, means light from numerous artificial light sources on a single property that as a group are directly or indirectly visible from an observer standing anywhere on the beach. So this is classically represented whenever you see that that kind of glow in the sky, and it amazes me. It breaks my heart sometimes. You see something you never thought. Why is a sea turtle? There's barely any light in there, but they do disorient towards this light, and it's difficult. But that's why we're making the argument when a property owner is saying you can't see this from the beach. Well, whenever you're looking down upon it, it's shifting, it's putting light up, and on a cloudy day, which happens a lot during the summer, it's reflecting off those clouds, and sea turtles are the ultimate light detectors. So the question is how do we assess this as staff? How are we going to address this? Where does the indirectly visible end, the indirectly visible regulation end and cumulatively visible begin? So where do we stop requiring long wavelength bulbs and start only requiring just the lighting standards where it can be a full spectrum bulb but still downward directed and full cutoff? So there's kind of where's the line in the sand, so to speak? So we have options. So do we require long wavelength everywhere? Do we use the 1991 triple CL, which is more or less a sterile boulevard, as a delineation? Or there's some FWC guidance that I was going to put forth that may offer at least some guidance. This picture that you're seeing with the island, you have the red and the gray layer, is created by FWC's Imperial Species Management Section. It's buffers that are for planning purposes only, so it's not law, and it's recommended. It's the recommended it's a minimum area, so it could be expanded, and I'll talk to that, where specific lighting should occur. So in the red you have where it's recommended to have wildlife sensitive lighting, AKA long wavelength downward directed shielded from the beach. And the gray layer that's more on the base side is for the dark sky lighting, which is essentially our lighting standards code. So the issue with this is that this was created kind of, you know, it's a line. It's not, you know, it's not necessarily reality at any stage. And again, as we pointed out earlier, you have the Hurricane Ian, which knocked out structures, knocked out vegetation, where lights that were not necessarily directly or indirectly visible from the beach before, you know, if they're installed now, they are directly or indirectly visible from the beach. So there is that, there can be that increase of that red layer, could be argued. So, I mean, that's kind of the crux of it. I know I went really quick, but these meetings go really long and I wanted to fly through it, but that's kind of where I'm looking for MERTF's feedback and advice to council as the Marine Resource Task Force.
So has a town council come to you to ask us for, no?
Nope. This is me as staff realizing these issues and wanting to
Getting
give
ahead of it.
feedback.
Can we get your thoughts a little bit,
Yeah.
other than just going over this?
Your
first?
opinion.
Well, you know, I think the third option is the more pragmatic one.
Mm-hmm.
I think long wavelength light is as much as I would love that environmentally, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's, you know, it's great to be an idealist, but I just don't think it's going to happen. You know, people look at me crazy whenever, you know, they say, you know, you want me to have amber light in the back bay. It's, you know, it's just environmentally. Do I recommend it? Sure. Do I think it's practical or going to happen? Maybe not. But you know, again, this is for y'all's recommendation. The 1991 triple CL is a delineation. It's a line. It's a best guess. It's not necessarily flexible. But then again, this FWC guidance is a line as well. So.
But isn't, Chad, isn't the, sorry, lost my pen. I mean, isn't the delineation really whether or not it's visible from the beach?
Well,
Technically,
again,
right?
if it's directly visible or indirectly visible, I think we're all in
Cumulative, yeah.
agreement that we want, you know, if it's directly visible, long wavelength, downward directed, fully shielded, no
Right,
problem.
right.
If it's indirectly visible, hey, this is reflecting off a building, or your street side of your condo is reflecting off of all the buildings on the
Right.
other side of the stereo, you need to put amber bulbs.
Right.
So that all seems, it's just the cumulatively visible that you don't necessarily, you know, a lighting inspection, you may not even see that on a lighting inspection. So how, you know, again, so, you know, where we have lighting reviews of all commercial, all multifamily structures, are we asking them to do the conventional wildlife sensitive conventional lighting, even if they're on the back bay, or are we okay with just getting them to the dark sky standard where they're still having to comply with the luminescence
Right.
minimums and maximums, still have to do the downward directed full cutoff fixtures, unless it meets one of those exceptions. So that's the crux of the issue.
If there's a
Right.
disorientation from the back bay, how do you handle that with beach patrol and like say there's a disorientation, you know for sure who it was and they were on the back bay, how do you go about doing that? Is it the same protocol as if, oh, we know this hotel had their pool lights on, those turtles ended up in the pool, they're gonna get a fine for the disorientation. Are you able to do something like that with the back bay?
It's very difficult to pinpoint cumulative lighting.
Right.
My goal is I want to be out of the sea turtle lighting enforcement business.
Yeah.
You know, let's get rid of sea turtle enforcement. That would be great. It would be time better spent, more productive. The only way to do that is if people install the proper lighting. You know, that's how I get that off my checklist. So again, I'm asking y'all the Marine Resource Task Force, you know,
Environmental resources.
So, so Chad, I think if we just follow, if we actually follow the ordinances, then it would be, the problems would diminish tremendously, because as you mentioned, from the beach, if you see direct or indirect from the beach, then that's gotta be long wavelength, right? Because that's a serious source of light. The challenge, as I know, is the sky glow, basically, right? You're talking about the cumulative light, which is a little bit more difficult, but our ordinance is, our municipal lighting ordinance is based on dark skies. So if everybody actually were compliant with our ordinance, then we would have fully cut off shielded fixtures, and we wouldn't have the development of the sky glow. Would you, do you agree with that?
Again, I think it requires some code interpretation, because the Sea Turtle Conservation Code applies to all properties. And I'm doing a lighting review, which does call on the Sea Turtle Conservation Code, which does require long wavelength, downward directed, full cutoff, fully shielded lights. So am I requiring that for all commercial and all multifamily? Or are we okay with cumulatively visible, in that gray zone, as long as you're following the lighting standards code, is okay?
I
Do you
guess,
understand the issue?
yeah, I do, I understand. I guess my point is if the municipal lighting ordinance was being followed, then we wouldn't have, that would eliminate the issue of the sky glow. Does that make sense, or are you saying it's still gonna?
I agree, but that's the feedback I need.
Right.
If we think that we don't necessarily need,
Where do we start and stop with long wave? Is that, Amber, is what you're asking,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, I think it happens, if it's because of cumulative light, it doesn't matter, it's the dead turtle.
Right.
So
Is
we need
there
to-
any incentive right now for people that aren't required to have turtle-friendly lighting on the beach? Is there any incentive that the town is or could offer to say, hey, if you do this, obviously saving the lives are good enough incentive for some, but it's not good enough for every.
Honestly, we just need to enforce.
It's the
Follow the
veracity, well, it's right.
The issue on beachfront property, the incentive on beachfront property now is pretty much if you're doing anything that involves FWC, you have to submit a plan that involves FWC approved lighting.
Oh, I mean Back Bay. I'm
Yeah,
talking
Okay,
Back
well,
Bay.
I understand that. I'm saying, so pretty much everybody on the front,
Mhm.
on Estero Boulevard is going to either be covered by what FWC says or what the town has said.
Mhm.
Back Bay, it becomes a very difficult issue to say what's a glow and what's not a glow. And I'm not picking on the town, but I can look at a glow every night that the baseball field is operating, and that's a glow. That to me is probably one of the biggest glows in the night sky.
absolutely it was.
So do we turn that off? Do we say, okay, everything, there are no night games?
Well, it actually
Does
isn't
everything-
on during sea turtle
Athletic,
season.
yeah, so number one, athletic fields are exempt. Number two,
It's not on.
the new lights are, I believe, I'll double check with Jeff, but I believe they are going to either be dark sky or maybe even amber.
Correct.
That is correct, Chad.
Wow, it's like a voice in the head.
But
So-
I'm just thinking of some way for the Back Bay,
Right.
can start moving in the direction of the entire island being that way, because it's gonna take time if we put
This
something.
ordinance
like-
was 2010.
No, I know, but it's not saying the whole
Right,
island.
it's the veracity of whether or not we're gonna
It is.
enforce compliance.
So-
It's, we don't have to rewrite
Again,
ordinances.
we already have it
It's
there.
all in place.
Exactly. We already have
it.
This is a beautiful document, it really outlines the
Exactly.
fact that all of
Yeah.
these provisions are in place. It's
It
about
really all comes down to
how do we get
enforcement.
people to, but also you have to encourage people, how are we gonna get them to do it? Everybody's
Education.
remodeling their houses now, so it's a perfect
Education.
time.
Okay, guys, again, the crux of the question is not how or incentives, it is, do we accept cumulative, do we accept dark sky or lighting standards code only in multifamily and commercial properties that are outside of that red zone? And do we, and conversely, do we absolutely require wildlife lighting for anyone who is in that red zone?
Okay, my question
Yes.
is,
Yes.
Yes.
why not,
Yes.
why not, you're saying multi-family and commercial, that's, why not everyone? If you're
Because the
gonna,
code only gives me lighting reviews for multifamily and commercial. I don't review lighting plans for single family unless it's Waterwood of the triple CL. And if it's Waterwood of the triple CL, I'm treating as if it's directly or indirectly visible, which I think is pretty straightforward.
So you want a yes or no?
He,
So
no, he
my-
wants to manage it through the LDO
Yeah.
process is the point.
Right.
So unless LDO comes in front of him, land development order, and gets a review, that's the extent. So for all those residential people that don't have to have land development orders for lighting, there won't be any, I mean, what I'm understanding is there won't be an effort for compliance of those.
No, that's not what we're saying. There's no lighting review. Compliance always exists.
Right, well,
Compliance assistance always exists. We're always gonna educate and address those.
So I move to make a motion that we as a committee vote on one of these to give you what you're looking for. Is that what you need us to recommend one of these three?
Well, something a little more detailed than these three, but again,
Right.
speaking to, is it, in simplicity terms, we have two codes. We have Sea Turtle Conservation Code and Lighting Standards Code. Do we strictly enforce the Sea Turtle Conservation Code just in this red area? And not require long wavelength, downward directed, et cetera, or pretty much just long wavelength in the gray area. So, and again, this is just a presentation, food for thought. We can push it to the next thing so y'all can think about it. I don't need a reply right now.
Okay, great.
I mean, the fast solution would be require long wavelength light everywhere.
Yeah.
New ordinance.
For dark skies.
I mean, right now, there's a unanimous resolution from town council that supported long wavelength amber lighting for the roadway, sterile roadway, as well as all streets. So the entire town will have long wavelength amber.
I mean, the island's not that deep, it's not that
lighting. No, of
high.
course it isn't.
so-
No, and especially now you can see from one end to the other since there's buildings missing, but.
So if it pleases the chairman, I mean, if there's any more discussion, I don't want to cut anybody off, but
Bring it up
I
as
think
a
I've sprung a
agenda
lot on
item.
y'all to think about. If you
Right.
want to push this to
Okay.
another agenda
Yep.
item.
But I think that has to be discussed because no
Sure.
one's brought
Yeah.
up the fact there's any
I
cost. that
would like to study this
Sure.
and go
Yeah.
back through before we take any vote on this and get some feedback from the residents
Very fair.
and the other people that are gonna be involved in this. Before we just rush headlong and say, boy, here's something we should do. I'd like to study this as somebody that's put amber light throughout our property and have talked to our neighbors up and down the beach. I understand the issues behind it, but I'd like to hear from some other people and get their feedback before we make a decision.
Thank
And
you.
that's perfect
Yep.
because that's what we heard here in the first part of this meeting, where these property owners were upset at the regulations, were guidelines thrown at them. So here's an opportunity to get them involved.
That's right, and they can come in, make a public comment,
Yeah.
voice their opinion, or send letters in to Chad or any of the members on the committee and
Get
voice
their-
their opinion.
Get their thought out. Yep.
Thank you, Chad.
Yes, sir. You're welcome. My pleasure.
All right, so that will be added as an agenda item at some point, based on
Probably the next.
prioritization of this committee, right? Okay. What's up? Put this up again. I don't have a agenda.
Activity book, if you're finished with the beach sand projects.
Yeah, so next up, as we reordered them, was beach sand projects, a book, shrimp parade, adaptive right away, and then sewer lines. So, next item up is beach sand projects. So, well, maybe as a continuation here, we've got, I've been in contact with Dr. Michael Savarese, who came to the Mound House and did a presentation on as Mary Rose had handed out on resilience, beach resilience. What was the actual, but basically it's resilience. So between the coastal engineering, which is in geology, which is his expertise, and there's two other people, Chad, what's Chad's last name?
I think, is it Gilchrist?
No, that's
No,
Austin
that's
Gilchrist.
Austin. Okay.
Washburn, Chad
Washburn.
Washburn and Janine as well as a professor at FGCU. They're willing to come and actually do provide us with a panel discussion. So the presentation at Mound House, which was right during a very bad weather event, it wasn't that, Mary Rose, you were there, it wasn't that
Right.
well attended.
Right.
But this particular gentleman has very specific data on our beach. So he's got LiDAR data for the entire beach. And actually, I believe, has requested from the town council and was granted the ability to continue to do research on the beach. Chad and Jeannie are both plant people, so their whole perspective is vegetation and dune vegetation. But they've also used what's the Delnor Wiggins Park? Is that what it is? As a laboratory since Ian, and so they were able to study exactly what the first colonizers were back. All the basically as the plants grew back, which came back first. So their thought is that there are better ways to revegetate the beach than the traditional thoughts of sea oats and the traditional ways. And I know right now, as part of our managed beach zone plan, we offer 3 separate scenarios that can be adopted for the dune. If you're receiving, signed an easement and you're receiving a dune, to vegetate those. So this is really more current thought, but also the concept of resilience. Because right now, I think, and although our guests, felt that we were against the sand project, I think maybe the opposition that we had proposed at earlier meetings was not exactly that we don't agree that sand should be placed. It's how it's being placed for the truck or the beach, the truck haul projects. So maybe before we continue here, trying to get all 3 of those people scheduled, they've actually provided the date of February 29th as a date that they could make. It's from 3 to 5. Adam Knight was involved at the Mound House with the original organization, so he was sort of sitting in on the organization of this one. We got confirmation from the Bay Oaks Rec Center that the facility was available at that time, and the problem being is since with their after-school program, although they'll be in a different room, it might be a little bit noisy still. So I don't know if there's a possibility of a venue change we could offer. I don't know if we'll be in the trucks yet. Any idea whether or not? Don't plan on anything. Okay, I hear you.
Possibly, but not that.
I hear you. Okay, so and the thought was, after seeing and reviewing the slides that he presented at the Mound House, is that this is just a very timely conversation to have about an opportunistic time to talk about resilience for the beach. And the format they chose was more of a panel discussion, a forum, and the types of things that they had discussed and left at the last, which was more of a lecture, were food for managerial thought. These are the ones that Mary Rose had passed out last meeting. But to just review those, one is the value of dunes, value of property vegetated dunes, increasing dune height, making accommodation space for dunes difficult given the location of the development, use of seawalls or gray-green hybrid dunes, building more resilient structures for surge, design of foundational footprints, passageways between foundations, best practices for dune field crossover pathways, which would be obviously our accesses, manage hotspots differently, Newton being the hottest spot on the island, and setback coastal construction control line for at least new construction. So those were thoughts, and those would sort of maybe be the topics that if we were to think through how they would apply to Fort Myers Beach, that we would bring to them, and then they can answer those intelligently. it would be an opportunity to invite the guests that we had today and the whole town, as well as the town council, which is, I think, extremely important to this panel, and share the information. So really, I'm bringing it here, under beach sand projects, to start us off with getting consensus here that is something that y'all would support, and if so, then we can go ahead and get started on it.
What exactly are they doing again?
It's a panel's discussion about resilience on the beach. So
just, these guys, they came and talked to FEMA, arranged the same group of people to come and speak. So they come and talk about the benefits of biodiversity in the dune, how to plant, maybe burying them a little bit deeper, and it kind of invigorates the dune vegetation, having different species, right place, because the dune, it undulates in the elevation, so you have some that are more wet, some that are more dry, and just speaking to good dune management care and some ideas.
Yeah. Okay. And one of the timely factors is that we're getting upwards of $40 million of taxpayer-funded sand put on our beach, to no benefit really of anybody, these taxpayers. So there's an obligation.
I don't understand that comment at all.
Well, besides the local, okay.
That's not a fair statement.
Correct me.
Yeah, you're getting sand on the beach for people to come down here and enjoy the beach, to spend money in this local area.
And I think one of the things that I learned from the FSBPA, which is a shoreline protection organization, I think they say for every $1 you spend on beach renourishment, you're getting, it varies, $6 to $10 back in economic benefit to the locality.
So it makes
That's an
sense to
opinion,
protect
yeah.
the sand that we do get.
Absolutely, we are.
Because the point is, it's gonna run out. Already there's, let's say up in Pinellas County, the Army Corps of Engineers is refusing to put the sand down because there's issues with easements, which means because there's no resilience.
Where is this at?
Pinellas County, St. Pete Beach.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the point is that the requirements are going to stiffen as time goes on, and there needs to be some type of return for placing it on, because otherwise it's just going to blow away. It's going to be pulled back out. It's all the issues that we saw with Ian. So technically, if you go back to pre-Ian conditions, as Chad had mentioned twice at last meeting, then we're just setting ourselves up again for having it all washed away again. So that's why resilience is such an important. It's financial. It's financial. Let's face it. It's a financial pursuit here to keep our sand on the beach and prevent it from going away. And of course, anything south of Flamingo is private. All the way to the mean high water line. There's not an ECL. There's not anything. So that's all private property that's being benefited. Correct? By the sand. So outside from the mean high water line to the beach, to the water, is really the only public land down there. Would you agree?
High tide. You're talking about the
Mean high
wet
water
sand
line.
area. The wet
Yeah.
sand area.
Right.
Yes.
I would disagree
Unless,
that
of course,
it's-
you're in the CWA where the state has control over that.
Correct. Well, it's state-owned sand, just like the ECL line is.
That's debatable, but that's the way the law is written right now. or the
Okay.
guidelines.
But for the lack of a better
But in
example,
every-
the erosion control line to the water is state-owned sand for the rest of our beach.
For the areas that have an erosion control line, yes.
Right, okay, so that's
Yeah.
my point, I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
So the point is that it's very topical, and I think that it certainly would benefit our community to listen to these professionals provide advice for the future.
Okay.
So,
If we look at our temporary berm, we can see that a lot of it is disappearing. We have people setting their beach chairs right on top of it, it's blowing away. I think it would
Great,
help
yeah.
if it were secured with plantings, and that's what we need to think about. What are we going to put in? What order are we going to put them in? How are we going to get them in? How are we going to pay for it? We need to think about those things, not just putting the sand down. Let's secure the sand that we put down.
So going back to the question, these gentlemen have offered to come in for free and give a panel on the 29th, and that information is always great. I unfortunately have a commitment on the 29th, so I can't be there, but.
Can it be Zoomed, or is it get recorded?
The idea would be if it's town run, it'd be YouTube, you know, it'd just be like our normal meeting, so it'd be live streamed and we'd have.
So it is live streamed then?
Yeah, it should be, yeah. I don't know if that's officially, that's officially a MERTF meeting, does it have to be noticed, Chad?
All meetings are to be noticed.
Okay, so yeah, it'll be, hopefully we'll have the same.
So it's just an extra meeting, it doesn't replace our
Yeah, no,
monthly
it's just a
meeting.
MERTF
Yeah, it's an
supported,
informative.
sponsored, panel on resilience. Do we have consensus?
Yes.
Yeah, that sounds
Do
awesome.
we need to take a vote? No? Okay, so, so the other would be a venue. I mean, is that gonna be a concern, having it here if potentially there is noise coming from this room as we're out there, or
Well, it depends on how many people will show up, if they, you know, because that could be a big thing.
are there any other venues that are really available outside of the
I would
Mountain
say-
House? Is
I
that
would say
larger?
if we could wait until the town was available, or, because it's going to be very difficult to have something here when there's activities going on the other
I
side of
could-
that door.
I'm not speaking for this company in any way, shape, or form. I can always ask if Pink Shell has anything going on, if they would be willing to use one of their ballrooms for something like that. We have been discussing doing more community things like this, and I think it might be a good opportunity to kind of kick that off. I have to ask certain people, and you know, I don't want to, you know,
Right,
cause any
and
issues.
amount.
If that causes any issues anywhere, then never mind. But
Right, cost issues, okay. So I guess we'll just have to work forward on the venue here.
And I would say
Sooner
it is,
than later.
it's time sensitive, sooner is better
Yeah, I'd
than
say
later.
Here in the
because-
next week, we need to finalize the location.
if
We'd
I
like
find out
to-
if that's a possibility, who do I reach? Who do I contact? Do I just email everybody, or Chad?
Yeah.
And then he'll email everybody. Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I can just follow up on some of your statements.
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to read an email or communication from Ms. Eve Haverfield, in charge of Turtle Time, regarding the town's berm project. The town of Fort Myers Beach prevailed in the hatchling and emergent success of nest, being sea turtle nest, deposited on the berm. The percentages were outstanding. The average hatching success rate was 79.6%, and an average emergent success rate of 77.2%. And we even had a 100%er. The berm served our nest very well, smiley face. So, I just want to be clear that the town's project, not only did it help protect our upland properties, that it also benefited our threatened wildlife that we have on the island. With regards to the berm getting overwashed during Idalia, had the town rushed to plant the berm, that vegetation would not have been established enough to hold that berm. I think it's a misstatement to say that not planting it has resulted in it dissipating the way it did. That was going to happen regardless of that overwash, and I can show you video of that
Are you
overwash.
still
So, but
referring
who-
to Eve's
Submerged.
email? I'm sorry, where was the stop point from Eve's email to what you are inputting? Because you kind of, where was
Yeah.
Eve's email stopped? And then
At the
you
smiley face.
came in,
At the-
okay, at the smiley face.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
So I don't think you have any
That's
arguments
correct
with
now.
that. I mean, I don't think
Right,
anybody.
is responding to my statement about vegetation contributing to the loss of our.
Well, I can tell you, Naples actually did plant, and then they sandbagged, I believe they're doomed to protect their native vegetation, allow it to grab a hold. Now, is that something we're gonna do?
There's also the
Probably
possibility
not.
of a sand fence.
But the point is that they valued, you know, the planning and recognized the advantage of it. And I don't think you object to that either. You understand that dune vegetation is required to keep it in place. I mean, that's not, I don't think that's, I'm not quite sure why we're discussing
And
that.
the third point has been that the coastal engineer, from the get-go of the project, where we had done the planning, has been to install the berm, knowing that the dredge project was following, and that is a sloppy slurry of a mess on the beach that would also impact newly planted plants. And the recommendation from the coastal engineer was, the order of events was to do the berm, the dredge project, and then the plantings. Unfortunately, the dredge project has gotten delayed by the Army Corps and then bird season coming upon us, and that's unfortunate, but you know, we're sticking to the plan.
So, I mean, it's a good segue. So what exactly is the vegetation plan then for the beach, including, you know, the $40 million of sand that'll eventually come up onto it? I mean, what is the extent, or what is the plan for just vegetation? Because I don't think I've...
So you have the dune management plan, that is the plan for everyone who signed their easements, same as it's always been. And then for properties that are outside of the project area, we'll be working with those private property owners.
I have some people that actually received the berm that didn't sign easements, and they're wondering if they're required.
There is no FEMA requirement for
Plant that.
vegetation on the berm.
There isn't. For the sand that's coming up, you have basically the managed beach zone, which means that any property owner that signed an easement to receive beach renourishment will put in a primary dune, 75% the width of their property, and choose from one of 3 planting options. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, that's the dune management plan.
Okay, and at this point, do we still know what percentage of homeowners have signed, or property owners have signed the easement? I know there was a...
Numbers, Steve.
Yeah, okay. I mean, last one I think we have this from last August, during that presentation. But do you, I mean, just off the top of your head, do you have any idea? Percentage-wise?
No, sir.
I won't stick you in, okay. Okay, so that's the extent of it. So that's one of the reasons, I mean, that the beach project was sort of on the, you know, I think that we need to look into it, because I mean, those projects were all put together, especially the sand haul projects, without any input from MERTF or any advisory boards. It was directly to the town council, which was a lot of information, I think, for them to take. So in my personal opinion, and maybe some of the objection that we heard today was potentially directed at me, was that, you know, we know that the beach haul projects, well, let me ask you this first. Is there anything that prevented the town from taking the funds from the beach haul project and applying those funds toward the addition of more sand through the renourishment?
That's one of the options we discussed with the coastal engineer.
So that was an option, because the benefits to those is that, first of all, the sand is 30% less. So you could actually add 3 times as much sand if it was pumped up versus hauled in. But also, if it was through the renourishment, then property owners would be required to sign an easement to receive sand. And the benefit of signing an easement is a couple things. One, through the renourishment project, there are requirements to protect taxpayers, in that what you're doing is you're taking sand, obviously renourishment, you'd either have to sign an easement to receive the sand, which would then require dunes and dune vegetation. And the second one is that if you're adding sand near the water and extending the length of the beach, then it would require an erosion control line to go in, which would then delineate taxpayer sand that actually paid for the sand to be put in
There's
versus
no town plans to
private
create an
sand.
ECO.
Of course, there's no plans. My point, Chad, is that is an option to renourish that area versus doing a truck haul project, because a truck haul project is 3 times more expensive and really circumvents, to me, the renourishment process and the requirements to take taxpayer sand onto private land. So it's really circumventing that, to me, personally,
So for
in my opinion.
Beachfront property owners, they're looking at hurricane season, another hurricane rainy season coming. I think they're very appreciative of us getting as much sand as soon as possible. And the truck hollow project is much simpler than trying to go through another 21-month process of permitting with U.S. Army Corps and establishing the ECL with the state. You know, it may be 2 years before we get sand with your suggestion.
Well, that's your opinion, but,
Well, I think
Well,
if
that's how long it took. the
if
permit.
that ball is already rolling,
But
don't
if the
stop.
permit's already in place, why would you have to
right,
reapply for
I'm just
another
suggesting
permit?
it's a concern. I have no
Okay.
power to stop
You-
anything.
You've expressed your concern,
Mm-hmm.
and can we move on?
Unless there's discussion, we're on the beach sand project, is there any other discussion?
Well, being a property owner on the beach, private property owner on the beach,
Mhm.
any sand I get is fantastic.
Oh, I'm sure.
Whether it's truck or whether it's blown in,
8
that's
million.
all fine, that's all fine.
Yeah,
Taxpayer funded, but we also pay taxes,
Sure.
property taxes, and when we're down here, we support the local economy.
sure.
So this continual delineation between private property and public property, I don't think has much credibility.
Well, you have the property to trespass people and things like that, and prevent people actually from walking on your property, so,
Well, that's a little bit out of the scope of the discussion on trespassing here. But I can give you a great example where our berm was not put in because of bird nests. And we had to get hit by Idalia.
mhm.
And what work we had done under the building got washed out.
Mhm.
So that cost our owners an additional $35,000.
Mhm.
Hard money, real money.
Sure.
Okay? And had that berm been there, and even if Idalia washed that berm out, it did its function.
Sure.
That berm, once it's vegetated, over time, will try to root and try to stay there.
Mhm.
But I don't think there's any mystery. Any sand you put on the beach,
There's no
whether it's
reason.
this year, last year, 20 years ago, it's gone.
Sure.
It's all sacrificial.
Mhm.
It's described in the beach project as sacrificial sand.
Mhm. But you didn't also, there's no requirement to vegetate that berm. So you're suggesting that you will allow your berm, you will vegetate your berm?
In the CWA, it's a little bit different.
Sure.
Okay. There's enough vegetation in front of that berm
Mhm.
that the berm does not need, and nor is it required to be vegetated.
Right, you just mentioned that it would be vegetated, so that's why I asked.
You said, I said it's to be vegetated? I said
Yeah,
the
when
property.
when it's vegetated, it would,
When it's vegetated, yes. Where it's required to be vegetated, but the berm itself does not need.
okay, so you weren't talking about your particular
No,
situation?
I've got enough vegetation in front of my berm. I don't need anything on the berm.
Sure, gotcha.
But again, that's specific, and all I'm suggesting is all this moves forward, the property owners work with the environmental group
Mhm.
so that they can do their survey, they can say what's needed and what's not.
Right, right.
And that's how to work with the town
Mhm.
and how to make sure that you have what should be done, either requirement or as a good steward.
Mhm.
So
That's
Bill,
my
you would
point.
agree though that vegetation does protect our properties and our dunes?
Would I agree to that? Sure.
Yeah, it's a fact.
Good, yeah.
One of the protections, one of the other protections is having 300 yards or 900 feet of natural sand, which the town coastal engineer has stated, if you have 75 feet of beach in front of your property, that is protection against a 100-year storm. And he gave that presentation, and I have the date.
Chad, I just saw you shake your head
Well,
a
what you're
little
gonna
bit.
learn is that you've got surge, which is one thing, right? Surge height. And the other is inundation, which is how far that water will travel, like in the case of Ian. So without some type of a dune, then all those upland property owners, I mean, I don't care if there's 900 feet or whatever, that water's gonna continue to travel all the way up to.
We suffered
to
through
San Carlos.
we suffered through those of us on the 6,000 block suffered through the same tidal thing, and our beach remained.
Mhm.
It's still there. hasn't left, hasn't gone away. In fact, it probably increased in sand height. So that's all I can tell you. You know, there's different ways to protect buildings on the beach. One of them is berms, one of them is having a natural beach barrier that extends further out, and we're blessed with that. That's all I can tell you.
Super.
So,
Yep, so that's, any other comments on the beach stamp projects? All right, hearing none, let's go to the next agenda item, which is that the activity book?
Yay! Super excited about this one. If you all can please refer to this. So congratulations, Murph. We have finally started our we have received our first 5 pages of the Fort Myers Beach activity book. And it's been a few years in the making, and I'm so proud. But we do need to kind of go over it and give our feedback to Miss Knoll so she can continue on with the next 5 pages. This is not the front cover. This is the second page, really. It's the first.
I don't want to interrupt you, but some people are looking at the copy from the town. The town only copied 4 pages out of the 5, so they need to make sure they're looking at the paper clip.
Yeah, I'll turn one in to the town.
Okay, but I mean, the people that are now looking at, they need to use the paper clip version.
So you don't have, you should have all 5 pages.
It's 5
Right.
pages, and they're each separate, there's
But
nothing
the,
on the
but
back
the
of it.
town's copy is on.
Oh, the town
is
did
missing-
not.
Is missing a page.
Yeah, we didn't receive all the copies from the town, so I printed these out myself. Okay, so.
So this isn't the cover, Jen? This is,
The one with the paper clip is, and if you have 5 pages.
Yep, that's the right one.
correct one.
That's
Whatever, we received from, the town is incorrect, so you can put it, or maybe it's correct, but it's not accurate. So the first page is welcome to Fort Myers Beach. Our turtles and shorebirds are looking for beach friends like you. You can kind of read over it, look through it. It's a young lady looking at birds, a sea turtle. The cover of the activity book, I believe she's gonna have to work on. We're gonna probably have the town's logo and some other information. This will be the back of the cover.
but we'll call this page 1 just
Yep.
for reference.
Yep, and then you turn it, it says loggerhead sea turtles. It's got a couple activity boxes at the bottom, and those are gonna be, I have worked with other volunteers and Turtle Time Inc. I believe those 2 are gonna be eliminated, and we're going to extend, show more beach furniture, toys, and a beach cart that we can kind of do an activity, whether we circle things that should be put back into a cart and taken off the beach. Page 3.
On page 2,
Yes.
the date starting in late April, it should be starting in mid-April?
Mid-April?
Okay.
Late March or
Okay, so
something.
let me take some notes.
When is the date?
Yeah, and let me just go over it, and then we can go back and any notes that you want to include. The third page is showing some volunteer staking with a little activity on the right-hand side. Fourth page is Turtle Time Inc. page, where they show and kids can color in the different species of sea turtles. And the 5th page is a little maze for kids to either go from the sea turtle going up to land, or the baby sea turtles going to the water. So if you want to look over it, and if you have any notes or changes, please let me know.
Right now, or?
Want me to hand it to you?
Yeah, no, we need to know right now.
Okay, the last page.
Uh-huh.
Last sentence says, if you happen to find an injured or dead sea turtle, you need to take off that extra F.
Okay.
On the front page, Jen,
Yep.
that turtle isn't gonna be there when the sun's out.
Mm-hmm.
Not really.
So we want to get rid of the turtle or the sun?
No, it's, the first page is introduction to Flippers and Feathers Forever,
Okay.
Beach Friends Forever. So we definitely want to keep the flipper
All
side
right.
of it. So we can eliminate the sun, or we can maybe ask the illustrator to bring the sun down, so it's almost like it's
So it's
rising
nighttime.
or nighttime.
Right, we don't want people to think they're gonna come out here and, as they're enjoying the sun, see a loggerhead come crawling up.
Right.
What is the
Probably not.
primary age range this is geared towards?
So it's gonna be geared to, so each page has a little bit different, as, for example, second page is a little activity, and then you've got a little bit older when you get to the maze, so it's gonna be a little bit of a combination of all ages.
And
Even
is-
adults wanna do it.
Is the entire book turtle oriented?
So it's flippers and feathers.
Okay.
So it's going to represent our, wildlife, flippers and feathers,
Okay.
birds and sea turtles.
And dolphins and manatees?
Oh yeah, it's going to have
Okay.
it's going to have a dolphin, manatee page, and this is just the first 5 pages. It's going to be 16 pages in all. So we're going to be, more is to come. So
Gotcha.
we're just focusing on the first 5 pages right now. But if you have, I don't know if you remember, but I kind of went over all the pages that I thought would be, a great addition to the book, the activity book. But I honestly think that this is going to be something that Fort Myers Beach will have for many years to come, that they can share with the library, with other communities, with, the schools, and the beach kids, and so I'm very excited. So any recommendations, any ideas are greatly appreciated.
I was thinking of changing on page 3, the last word of sea to water, because she'd already used the word sea, and it's just kind of redundant, and I was like, well, stuff.
So page 3.
Yeah, because it's already saying they work together to climb out of the nest and race to the sea, and then it goes on, and the lights can also prevent them from reaching the water.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Are there any plans to create a curriculum around this book so an educator could take it into their class or a teacher could use it?
Well, the book itself will be going into the schools.
Well, I know, but like a scripted thing where an educator could take it in and have a story to go along with the book, to use the book as their outlet?
Well, I believe the book itself is pretty.
That's what you want to use that?
Yeah.
Okay, yep.
Jen, I think page 2 is too busy.
Okay.
I think all we really need is get rid of those activities on the bottom and put all the stuff that we don't want and have the kids X them out or circle them or color in, red what shouldn't, however you want to word it.
Well, that's why I was asking about the age, because it's very wordy.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
It might turn off some younger kids, but also, like you said, adults will like it, middle schoolers will like it.
Yeah, we're trying to really,
Make it versatile.
yeah.
Well, maybe get rid of the
I don't-
box, that just seems to set it aside.
So,
Yeah.
like I said, I had already spoken with Macy Knoll. We're gonna get rid of the 2 activity boxes down below. We're on page 2, by the way. Extend the beach scene a little bit more, add some beach chairs, some more toys, and a beach cart. And maybe do an activity where children can X out the things that they need to put back into the cart to take home with them versus leaving on the beach.
Right, the most likely things. And once again, I don't know that we have a turtle on the beach in the daytime.
Well, where are we?
On number 2?
On
On number
page
2,
2.
there's a
It's
moon
a
and
moon.
stars and,
Do we- Oh, okay, good.
yeah.
And this is just what people left when they shouldn't have.
I like that activity you just said better than how it is.
Yeah, I think we should X out the 2 activities at the bottom.
Yeah.
Does
And
anyone
you could have
else?
them color in the signs yellow too, because that's what we usually use, yellow signs.
Okay, so page 3. We're gonna take out 2 of the volunteers. I spoke with Turtle Time Inc. and they had requested that 2 of the volunteers be taken, the 2 people staking off to the left be taken out. Also the baby sea turtle, because because baby sea turtles don't sit on the beach and watch people staking. So we're gonna take that out and leave the lady to the right that's actually staking, and we'll fill in where the baby sea turtle is with sea oats and plants.
She has the updated one here with the sea oats.
Yeah, so I don't know why I got this one, but okay, so anyhow.
Should we have another line of tape, Jen, like we always
Yep,
put two
maybe a
lines of tape?
double
Yeah,
line of
double it
tape.
like we usually do.
Okay. Leave the right-hand activity because I think that's really great for young age kids. Draw a line the baby turtles can follow. And as you can see, the pages really, yes, there's some words, but we've got to say words to educate. And honestly, children help educate their parents as well. So I think the little activity on the right-hand side is wonderful.
So instead of draw a line, it's gonna be lines, right?
Draw
Draw a line.
a line the baby turtles can follow to the sea.
But they're all not gonna march in a row. We're gonna have lots of lines.
Okay.
You're turtle thinking, not child thinking.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Okay, so,
They're gonna fan out.
Yeah.
okay.
Help, or maybe just help the turtles get to the sea, show them how to get there or something.
Draw lines showing how we have to think about that verbiage.
Okay, but we need to figure this out so I can get these notes to Miss Knoll so she can finish the first 5 pages and we can move on.
Yeah, just draw a line showing the baby turtles scampering to the sea.
Alright, so the 4th page is Turtle Time Inc.'s page, and she has requested that Joe the diver be smaller so we can accentuate the sea turtles and make them a little bit bigger. I believe then maybe we will add some sort of activity to this, whether it be draw the largest turtle, which would be the leatherback brown, and maybe draw or color in the loggerhead a different color, and so on.
I like that it's correct. It's showing that the loggerheads don't have scoots, they have.
And I was hoping Joe could be called human because we're naming the turtles and then we give the diver
Joe.
Joe.
It's supposed to be a joke.
Yeah, it's
Pretty
kinda
sure
silly.
it's supposed to be a.
Okay, so eliminate the name.
Just have him human.
Okay.
'Cause
Or
then it's-
diver.
Oh,
How about just
give
diver?
him a name. Give him, call him Larry or something. I don't know. I mean, it's a joke, right? I
Okay.
mean,
All right,
why would
let's
he be
move.
there if we just put human?
Okay, let's move on. So
I'm sorry.
Diver. Okay.
diver.
Good Lord.
Maybe we'll just call him a diver.
I
All
didn't
right.
read this yet.
Steve's gonna go through and write Diver Joe.
Okay, so we're on to
And
5.
you're gonna have-
Please stop me if you have any recommendations for Miss Knoll. I have to say, she is more than what I thought. I mean, she is really an amazing illustrator, and I'm so proud of her. And I'm so proud of this town,
Good.
and I'm just so proud.
Awesome.
Okay, so page 5 is the maze. And if you want, you can read it, but this was actually already looked at by Turtle Time Inc., so I'm pretty sure the wording is accurate.
I like that page.
Yeah.
Other than the turtle.
I love the little baby turtles leaving the dunes to go one way and the mother coming out of the water to go the other.
They can choose which way to go.
Yes.
The only issue I would have
Yes, sir.
is on the bottom, if you're targeting a child for this, and they read the last paragraph, and it says, if you find a hatchling on the beach, put it in a dry container. I think you find an adult to put it in a container versus a kid trying to pick up a baby
That's a
hatchling.
good point.
Good point.
Okay, good point.
Still be in his jeans when they wash him.
Yeah.
That's page 5.
Cause
My pocket's dry.
my pocket's dry and I can take it home, can't I, Mommy?
You're right.
Well, when they were selling the little turtles on the beach, people were walking around with it
Oh,
in their
yeah.
pockets, so I don't put it past anybody.
Can you just, I'm sorry, can you repeat that so I can write?
Well, I would just have her change it so that, find an adult so that they can put it in a dry container. I don't think anybody wants a small child trying to pick up a turtle
No. Good point.
for a whole lot of reasons.
Okay, awesome. Okay, anything?
When we have this
Yep, the
orientation,
X.
they're the ones who find it.
Amendment X.
This is so loaded with
Do
grass.
you
Should
wanna
be-
say adult
That's
or
turtle
parent?
instead of turtles.
Oh.
Grammatically.
Oh, wait.
If you find an injured or dead sea turtles instead of turtle. So right now it says turtle. So if you find an injured or dead sea turtles instead of, but we want to change it to if you find an injured or dead sea turtle.
So eliminate the S.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Very good job.
Did you wanna say adult?
Excellent.
Or, did you wanna say adult or a parent? Or is
Oh,
parent too
adult.
restrictive?
I'd say adult.
I'd
Yeah.
say adult because
Could be
maybe
stranger
there with
danger.
your aunt, with your uncle and aunt or grandmother.
Grandparents are
Grandparents
big, taking
and-
kids to the beach. I see a lot of that.
Okay.
Don't ask that shady guy sitting over by the
Yeah.
dunes.
Hey, mister.
Hey, we don't get Put your cigar out. Help me with this turtle.
Smell like my daddy's cigar.
All right, just a few notes from Turtle Time Inc. In regards to some changes. Logger on page 4, tweaking. Hold on, sorry, I forgot to. Number 4, Turtle Time. Okay, so the ink, INC, the I needs to be capitalized.
Okay.
Kemps Ridley, this.
Needs a comma.
Yep, needs a comma after, so KEMP apostrophe.
Apostrophe, not a
Yeah. And then the diver needs to be smaller in scale. Loggerhead needs additional lines to signify lateral scutes on the carapace and needs 5 scutes like the Ridley. May not be able to show all 5 lateral, but from the angle, I think that's how they can appear. The greens have 4 lateral scoots. So we're gonna try to add a couple more lines to or ask Miss Knoll to add a couple more lines to the carapace. And by, again, taking Joe to a little bit smaller version, we will be able to proportionally make the leather back bigger and the green bigger. So that was the notes from Turtle Time Inc. Otherwise, they were really happy. Let's see.
All right.
Okay, I just want to make sure, so, because once I take all these notes to her, then she will redo them and we'll go on to our Feather Friends of Fort Myers Beach. Kids Elementary Drawings page, and so there's lots to come, so every month I will need this on the agenda, so we can go over it, make
So-
any corrections, and move on.
So we'll have more pages for the next meetings, which is.
So we have a total, the activity book will be 16 pages in
16
total.
Right.
So we have the first 5, so I believe we're gonna have another 5. We
Okay.
were able to get her to do more, to start on the illustration because I have done a lot of the writing for her to eliminate the writing off of her plate, so she is able to focus more on the illustration part of it. So I'm hoping we'll have another 5 by next month.
Okay.
Oh,
Excellent.
I'm sorry, one more thing, I just wanna get it down. So, on page 2, I believe on page 2, by eliminating the 2 boxes, we're gonna be making that nest bigger, and one of the activities will be in the middle of the nest. It will be, guess how many turtle eggs are in this nest, and we'll have a couple numbers, like 5, and then color the tape, which would be yellow. And that's it.
Good, thank you, Jen.
You're
Excellent
welcome.
job.
Yep.
It's gonna be a feather in our cap.
Yep, especially for the town, I think, and the school and the library and other, communities around. I think it'll be a wonderful, and restaurants can give them out with crayons, and so I'm really excited and I'm proud.
You should be very proud.
No, we
Good.
all should be. This is a MERTF, we've all been discussing this for a long time, so I'm very proud of us.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent. Next agenda item is the shrimp parade.
If I may, this is from 2022 when the MERTF float won 2nd place.
One
And I found it.
took second
and-
place. There's only one
Oh, we
winner.
took-
No, I'm
oh,
just
right.
joking.
Right.
There are only 2 of us there.
Two floats?
Yeah, we took 2nd place.
And it survived
for
the hurricane?
Under the Civic Groups and Association, and it survived. It's kind of rusty a little bit, but I found it a couple weeks ago and I cleaned it up. Yes, absolutely. I have lots of material.
We don't have much time. How in the world could we do that?
Well, it depends on what you want to deliver, I suppose, but,
We only had one day last time.
Yeah, I mean,
well, Bill Veach called and asked me if we needed that trailer again, so.
do we have the wood
available.
and the
I'm sure we have
the
nothing.
artwork? Oh, well, that's a different story then. I thought we may still
I
have
think
the
that's all, everything's
the
gone, yeah.
artwork and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, we talked about it before. I have this big boat that looks pretty cool. It just needs a flatbed trailer for it.
Do we have a flatbed trailer or no? Yeah.
I don't know.
That's the only thing. We could rent, I don't want to use too much money or anything like the rent one. If you know anybody that has one, or we could ask one of the people that have a forklift that they're
There's
not
a lot
using.
more
that day.
trailers on the beach than there
Yeah.
were,
That's what I
last year,
mean.
so I guess that's an option, but, I personally won't be, I'll be more than happy to help with it and everything else, but I'll be riding in the mosquito control float for the 75th anniversary, but I'm, of course, would help as much as needed.
And I have to say that I am still tied up in building reconstruction, so my spare time is extremely limited.
Spare time?
Yeah, what's that?
Okay.
Well, I don't
My
have access to a
limited spare
trailer
time.
or a truck or anything,
I have a
so-
trailer that I pull my kayaks on. We could take the kayaks off and put some makeshift panels on it and decorate it.
I mean,
It's small,
technically, you
but
could
it's
meet, a
something.
lot of people actually meet at Bay Oaks, 3 hours before the parade starts.
Put it together.
And they put it together.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that would be the minimum plan, and that would be achievable. There's not much I have to do to the one I'm on, so I'd be happy to help out there, if that's what you think, if that's what you'd like to do.
Or if it's too much and we don't have it, like we could just
Yeah.
walk it,
Yeah, I was gonna say, we could always just dress up and,
Well, do we have people that'll attend? Will you join if there is?
I don't, it all
a-
depends on what we decide today, but
Well, I mean, if the decision was, yes, let's do it, we'll get a spot, and then we'll figure out exactly what's gonna go in there.
I'm not doing the pop-up, for that, just, for record, it was a lot, it was a 2-day, thing the last time, it was
Yeah,
a lot
it
of
was a lot,
work.
yeah.
So I'm personally, unless someone else wants to do the pop-up, we know Mr. Nussbaum is busy but it's a lot of work, so, I'm okay sitting out this year, just because I got a lot going on too, and I wouldn't mind enjoying it, to be honest with you, and watching the parade from the streets.
I
from
think
my
if we're
street.
going,
Oh, sure.
I think 2
Yeah.
weeks ago that they were even having the shrimp parade, so
Yeah.
I think if they're gonna come out next year and we wanna do something,
Yeah.
we can plan ahead, do it right, and not make.
For this year?
Yeah.
Okay. Consensus is we do not participate this year. So, it's 12:21. We have the adopt a right-of-way and the sewer lines still on as current items.
Next month, just because, well, for me, I've gotta get going.
Do we have?
concur.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's
Move to
go ahead
adjourn?
and move to,
We have
well,
to have
staff
staff
report.
Okay.
And then,
I had an imperiled, one that I sent to you.
oh, we didn't know who, it's just Amy sent it. We don't know who that is. So
Go
is
through
that,
this quickly.
would you like to resave that for members items or still members items?
Isn't that what we're in now?
Well, we reorganized it.
report.
And normally we have staff
Oh.
report, we have members items, then we have public comment.
Chad's up.
Yeah, Chad's up for now, and I'll figure it out, Bill, by the time we get there. All right.
Just bear with me for a minute. We went out of order.
Well, we just tabled 2 items to get you up.
And then we have members' reports before public comment, Bill, so we can, that'd be a great time. Yeah, we received that, and I had no idea.
So I have a letter from the coastal engineer, Michael Poff, to address questions raised by the Marine and Environmental Resource Task Force. I provide you with the following details. Hurricane Ian significantly impacted Estero Island using art monument beach profile surveys. Coastal engineering consultants computed the impact equal to over 220,000 cubic yards of erosion. The art monument beach profiles are generally 1,000 feet apart. And please note that scours between the profiles were not quantified, so the total impact is estimated to be higher. The Florida Department of Environmental Protection issued their permit for the beach renourishment project, also known as the dredge project, including post-storm recovery work on January 18th, 2023. Refer to the attached permit drawings for the R 2010 profile location and comparison of the R 210 beach profile surveyed before and after the storm, which depicts the extensive damage caused by the hurricane. Coastal engineering consultants estimated the storm's impact equal to approximately 15,000 cubic yards. And just so you know, the R210 is the Carlos Point Beach, that's what we're referring to. So 15,000 cubic yards of erosion from the South Estero Island repair to fill those scour holes. On behalf of the town, Coastal engineering consultants applied for a minor modification to the Florida Department of Environmental Protection to permit to allow for concurrent construction of the South Estero Island repair with the dredge project. Florida Department of Environmental Protection issued the modification on June 29th, 2023, which included consultation with the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. Further, the South Estero Island repair work was included in the federal permit process with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, which included consultations with the National Marine Fisheries Service and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Also, copies are attached. Further, the environmental assessment prepared jointly with U.S. Army Corps and the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management included the South Estero Island repair. Copy of that's also attached. Due to the timing of the federal permit and the environmental window regarding nesting shorebirds, the town has moved forward with the South Estero Island repair work as part of a truck haul project. The dredge project will be rebid and is expected to commence later this year. The South Island Estero repair, placing 15,000 cubic yards of beach-compatible sand to fill the scour holes, will occur above mean high water and will be completed prior to March 1st. A copy of the repair plan is attached. The South Estero Island repair work is authorized both by the state of Florida Hurricane Ian emergency orders and by the Florida Department of Environmental Protection and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers permits for the beach project. And this was to address your concerns regards to the Carlos Point Beach being filled with sand and churn.
Is that any other updates?
No, sir, not at this time.
That's it. Okay, let's go to the next item. Is public, or I should say, members' items. Who'd like to start? Jen, why don't you start?
Yes, for some reason, we had been asked or told that we couldn't set up at the farmer's market because of an issue with space. But I received a phone call and they have welcomed us back and is giving us a spot back where we have been setting up for years. And so I'm happy to announce that the pop-up is back and going every other Friday. So same schedule that has been posted on the FortMyersBeach.gov website. So we'll be there next Friday, and we encourage the public and visitors to come out and ask questions about the environment or water quality, plants, wildlife. We'll have lots of good stuff to give away, so please stop by and say hi.
Awesome. Rob, I'll let you.
Yeah, I recently responded to a manatee in distress on Fort Myers Beach last week, and I wanted to give a shout out to the Sheriff's Department, the Fort Myers Beach Fire Department, Beach Patrol, and then just there was residents, there was guests that all came and assisted me with that rescue, and regardless of the outcome, it was really, really impactful for the event. So, which the waters this time of year are just cold, but because the Caloosahatchee is fairly dirty, so when the manatees go up the river to warm water, there's no food. So as soon as they get an opening for warm water, they leave to go find food, but then with the cold snaps back and forth, we're guessing it got caught. It was young. Even when they are rehabilitating them down the line, if it looks like it's okay, there can be organ failures and damage from that in the future. But
can we maybe talk about something like that in the activity book about, or not just specifically Polo Friends, but something with the...
Right, so that kind of brings, Patrol had questions, Sheriff had questions, and the Fire Department all had questions, and they were really, really great with it. I want it to be known in the community that I am Florida Fish and Wildlife trained. I have a background working with manatees. I was a manatee keeper, but I've also trained with Florida Fish and Wildlife to do rescues and that. So I'm not coming from a place of not knowing anything, and I want the community to know that I would love people to reach out to me to ask questions. Whether it's when those situations are happening, always call Florida Fish and Wildlife first. But just as a community, I want it to be open for whether it's in the books or that. I love answering questions and educating. So I think I can't respond to every manatee. This is one of a handful that I have been the first responder. And I think people knowing exactly what to do, and that's mainly just keep people away from them and call Florida Fish and Wildlife right away. It's really as much as that, but manatees are different. They can't breathe on their own. They need stimulus to breathe, and I had to get permission from my superior at Florida Fish and Wildlife before I was even allowed to touch it and pull it out. And then they gave me permission to tell the police that they're allowed to assist me if I need it. So it's a lot with it, because you don't want people getting in trouble. You don't want to put the animal in more danger. But I do like being able to educate. So I just want anyone to feel comfortable reaching out to me online or my phone or anything.
So I have a question.
And I want to be the personal naturalist if I can to help educate.
So I have a question. Was the town called?
I'm not exactly sure how it went. So I was first responder because we found it right in front of the resort, and then I called Florida Fish and Wildlife. The sheriff's deputies arrived about a half hour after I was on site. Then about an hour on site later, the fire department showed up, and then Beach Patrol showed up shortly after fire department did. I don't know how every individual was notified, other than probably people calling and that, but, yeah. So
You know, that's something of a concern for me with not having signs. I would get calls constantly from Crow with going to rescue Kemp's Ridley's naughty little turtles. It would get caught up in fishing line or get caught up. We don't have any signs right now. and
No,
so-
but people get bombarded with signs, and I don't disagree with you, but people get bombarded with signs. And I think the simple fact of when you see a dolphin, manatee, sea turtle, just knowing to call an authority, whether it's the
Yeah,
police
but
or
many
something.
people do not know
No, I
that.
know.
I didn't know what to do. I
Yeah.
ran to the entrance. I knew there was a sign there. I
Mhm.
hadn't ever read it, but
you
I
knew it was
knew
there.
that there was a sign there that might have information. So it was it
Mhm.
was a resource for me to actually go to. And so I'm just
Mhm.
wondering, I know that we're adage that's going up at the beach accesses.
So we have the beach access repair as part of our current beach, sand truck haul project, so on the order of, a month, 2 months, the grade will be restored, and then, we'll be working with Park and Rec and, Public Works to restore the other amenities that were there before the.
Will the signs be the same as before, or are they gonna be different, or will the community and the public have an idea of what these signs will be, saying before?
I'm not sure.
Do you know, Chad, is any of the pavement work part of the project, or is it just sand work?
Just saying.
Okay, so really, like, the example I'm using would be Sterling, where it's caved in and stuff, that's not part of it. So it would probably make no sense to put signage up until that whole access is repaired.
I can discuss it with, Park and Rec and Public Works and see what's happening.
Gotcha. Okay.
I just want to reiterate, it was beautiful how the community came together, both visitors and government officials, and that I want people to know that they're always able to reach out to me or Florida Fish and Wildlife with questions and that, so, you know, I just want to put that information out there. If any community businesses or, you know, property owners and that want my info and, you know, a way to do that, I want to have it out there, so. 'Cause
Perfect.
yeah.
All right, thanks, Rob. Maybe the man. How about you, Rose?
Yeah, just a brief thing with the pop-up that the Florida Native Plant Society is giving away small, free native plants to residents that stop by.
All right.
They're continuing to do that.
That's awesome. All right. Bill, now's your chance.
CWA. This is from Fish and Wildlife documents. Didn't bring the cover page, but it was from their website that either read or downloaded at different times from their conservation goals, objectives, and the executive summary. So I tried to take 70-some pages down to something a little bit more manageable. So in October, a new guideline to protect the imperiled birds goes into effect. At its July 2022 meeting, the Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission approved the new species conservation measures and permitting guidelines for 4 threatened beach nesting birds: the American oystercatcher, the black skimmer, the least tern, and the snowy plover. The goal of the plan is to improve the population sufficiently to remove the birds from the Florida endangered and threatened list. FWC delayed the implementation of this new guideline until October of this year based on things that have happened. The guideline's objective is to preserve and protect the ground breeding sites rather, and manage sufficient habitat to support stronger populations. The focus will be on the breeding sites. They're critical. Need undisturbed, open, or sparsely vegetated habitat with sand, shell, gravel, or some combination of the materials in which to dig their nest, which are called scrapes, and all 4 species use scrapes as their nest. These birds roost in habitats similar to those used for breeding. The open roost sites that are relatively safe from predators and close to the foraging areas. The coastal area is used by These imperiled birds to nest and rear their young are also popular with many human recreational activities. These guidelines are designed to minimize and avoid the harm or harassment of the birds and are designed to be a tool for the landowner and other interested parties on how to assist the imperiled birds. These guidelines also include options for avoidance of take and permitting options that minimize and mitigate unavoidable harm or harassment. The threats are habitat modification, human-related disturbance, habitat loss, and predation. Disturbances include, but not limited to, beach recreation, dogs, operation of manned and unmanned vehicles on the land, water, and in the air. The chick survival predation is from gulls, herons, and crows. To minimize disturbances, it's to reduce take, and take is defined as any action that harms or harasses these birds within 300 feet of an active or recent breeding site, or critical brood rearing site, or a roosting site. So they want you to keep 300 feet away from active areas. Harm also includes significant species from, or any harassment to keep these species from breeding or rearing their young. And what can the residents do? Keep the dogs on the leashes, keep dogs out of the CWA with the posted restrictions. Look ahead, these regulations were discussed a couple years back, but I guess as residents we should be aware of new regulations and provide input during the comment period. That way you get your voices heard. We had a very good success, which I think Dave reported on the very first meeting. And we had a successful hatch of snowy plovers in Mid-Island, which is very good. What can the local government do? We can educate locals. And again, I'm trying to work in the MERTF pop-up. That's a great tool. Strong educational postings for visitors for knowledge and awareness. Active conservation, education and outreach program. Foster recreational practices compatible with the wildlife. You can poll local property owners and assess what's right or what they need also, or to help with the change. You can market this as ecotourism or maybe even birding tourism. Obtain a bird-friendly designation. Encourage visitors to practice wildlife-friendly beach etiquette. In the CWA specifically, that area is managed by the FWC. It's seasonally restricted. Manage the habitat for maximum benefit of these birds. The vegetation management to create or maintain sandy beach for nesting. And then actually an annual review of the site-specific plans for adjustments. And that would again be working with Chad. On private property, resource management activities through the FWC. Would like to have the property owners' permission for management authority or the conservation. But again, work with the owners, the property owners. And we're further obtain the proper permits, especially the take permits. There are a lot of overlaps between the imperiled bird nesting and imperiled beach bird nesting, shorebirds and seabirds, and the turtle programs related to human activities and vegetation management. And again, if we work with the town of the Fort Myers Beach, his environmentalist and his staff, we can develop the best site-specific plan for the property owners and the wildlife. We do need a balance between, a balanced approach for the harmonious coexistence between the people and our natural environment. That's it.
Very good. So is this actually that's your shoreline spotlight submission for February?
Yeah.
Is that how I should record it? Okay, if you can't, give me I need a headshot.
headshot of what?
Of
Of
you.
your face.
Just somebody out in the
Head and
hallway.
shoulders, you know.
Why don't you step in on it?
Yeah, all right.
I'll take the picture.
But yeah, we usually have a photo of the, you know, let everybody get to know you as a
Oh, okay.
member. So if you can follow that up, then I'll include that usually in the submission. and then-
Headshot makes me nervous.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, don't put a little sight on the middle of your forehead. But good, no, it looks like you certainly collected all the information out there to put it together for us, so it's very timely too. There was a question mark there on the turtle. Did you want the turtle stats in there too?
I did not find it on the FWC site. So
Right.
I was gonna say that was successful also, but.
Yeah, I
just
can
didn't
give you,
find it.
I can tell you that we had 71 nests on the beach,
Mhm.
59 of them hatched, and we had a success rate of 81% is what we're reporting,
59 hatched,
out of 71.
or what was the percentage?
81%.
81% successful hatch rate. So can I just enter that in there? Or do you wanna,
No,
okay.
you can do that.
Okay.
Now, does that compare favorably with years past, better, worse, or what?
It's not as good as our best,
No.
but it's much better than some places had.
And
I think,
every year's.
Antigua was like 5 or 10%, and Sanibel was 30%, so we
Yeah.
did great. We were able to elevate our beach before the season, so I think that was a big difference.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good.
Just asking a question on that. In past years, Turtle Time used to put a location of where all the nests were. And I have not been able to find that online for the last couple of years. But they used to take the island and had all the nests dotted out, you know, on the island.
I don't know if we do that for public information.
No, it's not public.
We don't want
It was
people
on the web.
crediting.
Was it
Well,
at
no, but
the end of the season?
After the fact.
Oh, after the
Yeah,
fact.
after the
After the fact, saying, here's where all the nests were, here's the ones that hatched, here's the ones that didn't.
We could see about getting that.
Yeah, I don't
back.
know
Or
who
see-
produced
we
it.
can
I
look
mean,
into
that used to be on,
Yeah.
online, and you can't find it
Yeah,
anymore.
we can look into that.
I have no idea, but I thought I'd bring it up just because.
And then there's the
And
nests
the
that
other
are
thing is,
relocated.
and the question I had was, I know the nursery was down over by the the critical wildlife area, and, you know, it'd be interesting to see what the success rate was on the nursery that got transferred down there, because that could be a viable alternative of getting sand, putting in there, and just putting it in if there's a higher success rate of turtles coming out of trucked in sand, maybe we wanna look at transferring a lot of ones where they're a lower success rate and moving them in there.
Well, we can't just move them if we feel we can. We really need to be very, very cautious of what nests we relocate. And our choice of the critical wildlife area this year was the lesser of two evils, I think, but we'll get some more stats.
Okay, just a suggestion.
Okay. Say that. Good, so moving along here. I guess I'm up. The only thing, I really didn't have one, but now that you mentioned the signage, I had a community member call and reported that they had to chase out a golf cart from the CWA that was right along the beach and just rode up into the CWA, and I think they pointed to the fact that there's not a sign there anymore. So I think I'll take it upon myself to just call FWC, probably Becky Schneider, and say, listen, whoever's in charge of the CWA, you need a new sign there, because people are taking.
No sign, no law. it
Yeah,
seems.
they got-
Well, I mean,
they got
that's what it is,
pickup
because it
trucks.
is local, you know.
They've got pickup trucks getting
Right,
stuck
so-
on the beach, so
so, you know,
golf
I'm not a
carts are,
huge-
golf carts are kind of the
That's what I'm saying.
lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
We really need to get
And
these
we- I mean,
signs back
As much as we
up.
hate signs, they're necessary evil, because
Yeah.
people will use
Right.
that to
I'm not
say, well, I
anti-sign.
wasn't informed,
Well,
yeah,
and
it's
that's
ignorance.
also a
So-
way, you know, for the town to actually be able to inform people or follow, you know, you've got to let people know. You can't just go up and you know, tell somebody that they can't do something, and then the person may legitimately not know
Isn't the CWA just like a 6 or 7 month period?
No.
It's always a CWA.
All the time now?
All the time.
CWA's too, but it's all 365 days a year, and whatever regulations they have apply for the whole year. So, Mary Rose?
Okay, what I was going to do is give you a long beaches primarily on, in Florida, ones that have done renourishment and how they went about the replanting. So I sent out about 20 different letters, and I got back about a dozen that were helpful. Many of them just referred me to. This Pinellas County has been planting their dunes since October 2023. A couple of the places sent me very detailed listings on what they planted and when they planted them and where they got their cuttings. I have, out of the 17 good replies, 11 of them have information that can certainly be used. And many of them said they used community feedback to finalize their planting schedule, and they found that people and hints, and they recommend adding sand fencing upon completion so that the plantings get an opportunity. I have a list here of the first.
Or email it to Chad, and Chad can
Yeah, I'll
share
send it to Chad, and
Okay.
he can forward it.
That'd
I
be
look
great.
forward to seeing those.
People were very, very helpful. They all said that if we have
Healthy beaches here in Florida, and I hope our community will strive for that.
Many of these places were award winners, and the reason they were award winners is because they got their dunes planted, and so.
On the resilience, but we need to come with our thoughts beforehand and say, okay, these are some of the things, and I'm sure they'll work with us, but I guess it's just be prepared for it, because we won't have a meeting before then.
I would like to publicly thank, I had it right here. I would publicly like to thank Julie Rathmel at the Audubon, and Kurt Kramer and Eddie Rude for successfully reaching a very balanced compromise. FWC, FDEP, and the Audubon to come and reach a compromise that I think benefited everyone, and that's the sweet spot of the golf club that you're always trying to find on your drive. And I think it worked out, and it benefited the town because they're no longer involved in a lawsuit, which they didn't need. And I just wanted to publicly thank Julie at the Audubon Society for spearheading that and getting it done. And that's all I have to say.
Okay. Great, let's move on to Murph Award. Any candidates? Murph?
Are we out of can?
Yeah,
Oh,
the banks.
I think I brought up Kim, who did the original artwork in the library when you first
Oh, you
walked
did,
in
yeah.
the
Oh, right.
library, and she was asked back to redo it. And she did a lot of it on a canvas back where she lives, and then brought it in. I mean, it was a huge event, and honestly, it is beautiful. And I know the library's not open yet, but when it is, many people will see this, and it just represents the wildlife, our water, and our beaches, and it's just gorgeous. And kudos for her for coming back and trying to bring back something that we lost.
I have a few people
Very
that
good.
assisted with the manatee
Oh.
rescue. Ryan from Holiday Water Sports, he was there right at the beginning with me. Sammy is one of the workers who puts out the seats and the umbrellas and every morning, and he's just a very loving guy. He was the one who came and got me, and
So you do the group?
yeah, like I was thinking like a whole group, because then
Did you get photos?
I got photos of
Okay.
the
I figured.
well, we got the whole fire department pretty much showed up, and the sheriff department. I got pictures of those guys, and
I vote for the whole manatee rescue team,
Absolutely.
including Rob.
I personally don't want to be on there, but it was, I appreciate it, but it was really like the community, just the whole thing.
All right.
Yeah.
So
And we have a picture of like everybody carrying the manatee. The only downside is, you know, it had a sad outcome at the long run, but at that time it was
Yeah.
It's
That's game.
manatee protection awareness, that's perfect.
Okay, any other nominations? Hearing none, we've got the two, did we decide
I will
manatee?
hold mine back because.
Bank it? Well, how do I bank that? What's her name?
Kim.
Kim, okay.
Kim, library mural.
I got it, so we got
Yeah,
two.
when-
That'd be good when the library opens.
Okay.
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. Good
Yeah.
idea.
Any objection to that nomination?
No.
Hearing none,
No,
motion carries
sounds good.
unanimously
Get to writing.
to the manatee rescue team.
Can I get a
All right, set agenda for next meeting. Two items have come up since the start of the meeting. One was the sea turtle conservation, which we need to add.
Mhm.
Direct, I think that's a priority item.
Oh, I
Okay.
think we need to do a lot of research and take a look
Well,
at
and
the feedback.
like you said, reach out to the public who's watching, tell your neighbors, and that we'd love to hear from you guys. I think that was a really good point, that we want to hear from people about it. you
Right.
know?
We have the
Deserve to
activity
be
book.
heard.
Activity book needs to be on the agenda,
Agenda,
not
right,
an
that's
items
what I said,
reports.
yep, that's what I said. So, our ranking list, we also have, would it make sense to have a forum debrief from the
Oh,
activities that
before the
went on
meeting?
that went on after the 29th?
Oh. Do we need to
Collaborate
prepare?
on the findings and to make a recommendation to town
Yes.
based on the input of people that are studying
Sure.
our beach,
Sure.
or at least a discussion.
Yeah, we'll
Does that
include
make
that in the
sense?
agenda, yeah, we'll talk about what happened there.
All right. And then I think the next three on on our prioritized list were again, adopt a right of way, and that was a request from the town council, and then the sewer lines also, they'd asked us to follow up on that as well. So should we keep those two in the event we have time?
Yes.
Sure.
Dave, you're good, Bill, you're good, Jen, Rob?
What?
Okay, so.
I'm sorry, I asked her a question, that was my fault.
Sea turtle conservation, activity book update.
It's on the agenda.
Yes.
And whatever, vote. Third one was the forum debrief, right? Then the existing adopter right away and sewer lines.
Yes, keep it
We consensus?
Yes.
Okay. So, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes, second.
1:00 PM, all right. Any,
Oh, public
Oh,
comment.
Ms.
oh,
Sorry.
boy, I
Comment.
moved right through that. Public comment, okay.
I just wanted to say something, I just stated an observation.
You have to-
I'm sorry, Eddie Root, 8150 Estero Boulevard. I've made an observation, I've been to, 3, maybe 4 consecutive meetings now. This past spring or past winter, and, during every meeting, the discussion comes up about the FEMA burn and the beach renourishment and the vegetation. And, I just wanted to, make a statement about that. There seems to be some concern, a major concern, about using taxpayer-funded, sand and depositing it on private property. The berm, the FEMA berm, is being funded, by the government, and it is taxpayer money, I'm not gonna disagree with that. But the FEMA berm is being put in place to benefit every single property owner on this island, every taxpayer on this island. Now granted, some of the sand may be on private property, I'm not questioning that, but there's not another place to put it. And when you put it on the private property, it's a total package that protects all of the property owners over the whole island. The beach renourishment is no different. It protects our tourism, it shores our beaches, so that, beaches that people have always loved to come to. There's multiple benefits. Both the FEMA burn and the beach renourishment have wide public benefits all over the whole island. It's not a question about whether it's private property or public property or where one starts and where one stops. It's about protecting our island and taking advantage of these funds that have been granted to us. The discussion about the vegetation, I understand the need for vegetation, and I think some of the points are well taken. But there again, some of the berms, it's not a FEMA requirement. You're not going to be able to make these private property owners put vegetation out there. It's not going to happen. There'll be some of them that will voluntarily. Some of them may seek your advice as to what to put out there. But there'll be some property owners that won't want it. And the ones that don't want it, there's not a way to make them do it. In the last 3 or 4 meetings, the committee spent 20, 30 minutes, 40 minutes discussing these things over and over. And it just seems like such a waste of y'all's time to me. The project, all the projects, they've all went through a consulting firm. They've all been permitted. They've all been approved. And these projects are currently taking place right now. It's old news. It's a waste of time for y'all to just keep hashing this over, hashing it out, and hashing it out. There are new issues, future issues that need to be being addressed, not past issues. That's all it is.
Well, I'd like to make a comment on that. As I don't believe as a resident I'm wasting my time. I spend a lot of time, with all due respect, Mr. Rude, giving my volunteer hours to this community. I don't believe that coming here and vocalizing my
The upland property owners, a few of them were here, like Kelly Pardon. And I said, I will no longer rake the beach for you unless you go with FWC, and it was called the Safe Harbor Plan. And I said, I will cease my operations. I will not keep your beach raked unless you set up this plan with them. So after many meetings with Carlos Point, Islands End, Castle Beach, and all the adjacent property owners, they came up with a plan, and the plan was grooming with FWC certified monitors, and then I would stop, the beach would recruit with vegetation, and then they would grant us a special permit to remove the vegetation through the rotary tilling process and return the beach to pre-nesting conditions. And it's worked very well. It's the second most productive area in the state for least terns and black skimmers. It used to be for stony plovers until Mr. Nussbaum's beach beat that last year. 10 chicks. There's only 440 in the state. The year before was 1. So I just wanted to educate all of you to what was going on over there. It's worked really well until Ian. And I heard these folks complaining it looks terrible. It's because of Ian. I haven't touched that beach since Ian, and I'm not going to touch the beach until everything is done there. And then Rebecca Schneider gives me the green light to go and do what we're permitted to do every year after season. Then they'll have their beach back the way it was before Ian. But that's the history of that situation at that end of the island. It was this plan that was started in conjunction with every one of those property owners, Keith Lackinen from the town, and the FWC. Just so you know, that's for your history of what happened there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Perry. Now we'll entertain a meeting to adjourn.
Aye.
Second.
Aye.
107. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.